Chapter 919. Chapter 919. Even Jun Linyuan isn't its match. Yaoing took a deep breath. A bystander saw everything. Someone will come to her rescue. They always do. It could be His Royal Highness Yuminji, Xian Yi, or Feng Sun. Someone was always there for Feng Wu. As much as she hated to admit it, Mu Yaoyao couldn't retort. Slut. Mu Yaoyao cursed under her breath, then hurried off. You leave us. Xian Yi gave Feng Wu a little nudge, then rushed over to help Jun Linyuan. Feng Sun also showed up out of nowhere. He ignored Feng Wu and ran to fight alongside Jun Linyuan as well. Feng Wu shook her head. That wouldn't do. That beast was so emboldened because it knew that it had poisoned Jun Linyuan. He had been forcing himself to act normally. Feng Wu looked up. Before the beast, Jun Linyuan looked so towering and invincible. But he really should be lying down and resting now. With every bit of spiritual essence he summoned, the toxin that had yet to clear from his system would move a little bit closer to his heart, bringing him one step closer to death. Feng Wu's stomach lurched. She couldn't wait anymore. Thump! Feng Sun was smashed to the ground by the beast, and the impact created a pit in the snow. A pit? An idea struck Feng Wu all of a sudden. Yes. Feng Wu pulled Feng Sun out of the pit, but Feng Sun brushed her hand off as if she were a venomous snake. That was so strange. Feng Wu smacked Feng Sun on the head. I don't care what this is all about, but our lives are hanging in the balance now, and you have to listen to me. Feng Sun stared at her reluctantly. Feng Wu whispered, Tell Jun Linyuan to lure that beast to the cave where I was saved before. You know, the one where those Qilin beasts were. Feng Sun only snorted before he jumped back into the fight. Feng Wu frowned. Did the guy hear her or not? No, he didn't, Yuminji answered for her. Feng Wu tugged at his sleeve. Give me a hand. She then ran toward that cave as fast as she could. Yuminji had planned to give Feng Wu some attitude, but he gave in as soon as Feng Wu touched his sleeve. What are we doing? Yuminji asked curiously. I need to set up a formation, said Feng Wu hastily. Jun Linyuan is still injured, and he's weak from the poison before. That frosty night beast has gone berserk. He won't be its match. He won't. Yuminji was thrilled to hear that. Feng Wu smacked him on the head. Stop grinning. That beast holds a grudge against all of us, and no one will be able to fend it off if Jun Linyuan falls. We'll all be killed. That's serious? Yuminji's eyes widened. That's serious. Feng Wu took a deep breath. Jun Linyuan is our only hope, and we'll all die miserable deaths if he's gone. We have to kill that beast. Then, I'll go set up a formation and we'll trap the beast after they lure it here, Feng Wu explained. Yuminji asked, but will Feng Sun tell Jun Linyuan what you just said? Feng Wu shook her head. I have no idea what's going on with that stupid man. They got to the cave in no time. Feng Wu started working on the formation immediately. What formation do you have in mind? Yuminji asked curiously. Killing Flame. Feng Wu smirked. That frosty night beast was born and raised in the coldest part of the continent. Chapter 920. Chapter 920. How Despairing. Feng Wu went on. That frosty night beast was born and raised in the coldest place on the continent, and we can't beat it with our own ice attribute. Therefore, we need to take another approach. We'll kill it with abnormal flame. Yuminji said, but how are you going to set up the killing flame in time, let alone one that can kill that beast? Feng Wu was much too inferior to that beast in capability.
Did she even realize that?
Feng Wu smiled. That's where you'll come in handy. Yuminji asked, how can I help? Well, a lot. Luckily, they had lost connection with the outside world, and Yuminji here already knew about her recovering her ability. Otherwise, Feng Wu wouldn't know how to cover it up now. Meanwhile, Jun Linyuan and the beast were fighting fiercely. Feng Sun and Xian Yi had already been smashed to the ground. Both spat out blood, and were too weak to get back up. Feng Sun struggled to his feet, but lost his balance almost immediately. Exasperated, he glared at the beast in frustration. Boss Jun was poisoned, and with all the fighting, the toxin might have reached his heart already. Feng Sun gritted his teeth and turned to Xianyi. Is Boss Jun going to lose? Although it seemed that Boss Jun and the Frosty Night Beast had fought to a deadlock, Feng Sun and Xianyi knew Jun Linyuan too well and understood otherwise. Xianyi's eyes flickered. It's not looking good. They exchanged looks and leapt up together. However, the beast was almost invincible once it went berserk. Thump, thump, thump. Xianyi and Feng Sun were smashed down after they hacked at its scales. Both spat out blood again. They saw despair in each other's eyes. Rumble. The Frosty Night Beast growled. The hand which Jun Linyuan was holding the sword with trembled.
Shit.
Feng Sun cried out. The poison is taking effect. I can see Boss Jun spitting out dark green blood. Xianyi wanted to stand up, but even with the support of his sword, he couldn't. He only spat out more blood. He was truly full of despair now. Look at its eyes. Xianyi cried out. They've gone red.
Shit.
Feng Sun struggled to his feet while pressing a hand to his chest. That beast has just gone berserk again. What's wrong with it? Xianyi and Feng Sun exchanged looks, and both saw despair in each other's eyes. As capable as Boss Jun was, he was still a teenager. He had only been cultivating for so many years, not to mention that he still had poison in his system, which was spreading inside him. Everyone here in Proud Snowfield will be slaughtered if Boss Jun falls. Feng Sun drained of all color and turned to Xianyi. What should we do now? Are we all going to die here? Is there no other way? As he spoke. Thump. There was a loud sound. Sky Destroyer flew out of the hand of the seemingly invincible teenager, and its blade pierced the ground. The sword buried itself to the hilt in the snow with a splash. Xianyi and Feng Sun looked even more despairing. Feng Wu. Feng Sun was finally able to think straight at that critical moment, and he recalled what Feng Wu had said before she left. Little Feng Wu told me to have Boss Jun lure the beast to that cave where those Qilin beasts were. Chapter 921. Chapter 921. The Crown Prince's Plan. Xianyi smacked Feng Sun on the head. Why didn't you say so earlier? Feng Sun hesitated. Little Feng Wu has zero cultivation ability, so I didn't think. It wasn't just any magical beast, but a Frosty Night Beast. Even Boss Jun couldn't handle it on his own. Xianyi cut him off. She may not be a cultivator, but she's the best when it comes to formations and medical skills.
Have you forgotten that?
Xianyi understood Feng Wu's plan as soon as Feng Sun mentioned the cave. Formation. That was definitely what the girl was getting at. Xianyi gave Jun Linyuan a hand gesture as a signal. Having grown up together, Jun Linyuan got the hint immediately. The Qilin Beast's cave. Xianyi didn't tell him everything, though. Jun Linyuan would never go to the cave if he knew that Feng Wu was waiting there. Hence, Xianyi kept that from him. Suppressing the blood that was coming back up his throat, Jun Linyuan took a deep breath. He could handle that Frosty Night Beast if it had mutated just once. However, when it mutated again, he needed some help. The next second, Jun Linyuan spun around, and when the beast smashed down with its paw, he used the momentum to fly out like a kite. He was unbelievably fast. Frosty Night Beast didn't expect Jun Linyuan to run away. That proud teenager was actually capable of running away. The beast smirked, then ran after Jun Linyuan. Meanwhile, Feng Wu was busy setting up her formation. Seeing the stream of spiritual stones which poured out of Feng Wu's sleeve, Yu Minji was baffled. These are all top-notch. Feng Wu nodded. Yup. Where did you get all these top-grade spiritual stones? You're rich. If these top-grade spiritual stones were sold on the market, the effect would be sensational. Feng Wu smiled bitterly. She was anything but rich. All these top-grade spiritual stones came from under Grand Secretary Feng's house, and what was left had to be reserved for that Tai formation. None of them were for sale. And you have storage equipment? Yu Minji stared at Feng Wu in amazement. She had to have one. These spiritual stones and the other things she was using to set up the formation couldn't have just popped out of thin air. Feng Wu didn't want to expose her ring space, so she took out the infinity storage bag Jun Linyuan gave her and waved it in front of Yu Minji's eyes.
There.
I've got this, babe. An infinity storage bag? Yu Minji cried out in surprise. Feng Wu was bewildered. Why are you so surprised? Why do you think? Yu Minji stared at Feng Wu in disbelief. You have an infinity storage bag in your hands. Do you know what that means? Feng Wu said, I think I do. It's just a storage bag, isn't it? Just. Yu Minji was flabbergasted. Do you have any idea how rare infinity storage bags are? Feng Wu looked perfectly innocent. Were they? Yu Minji went on. Not to mention that the one you're holding is of a superior grade. Do you know what that means? What does it mean? It means that it's an infinity storage bag of the highest existing grade. No water or fire can damage it, and there's a blood bond between the bag and the owner. Other people won't be able to open it even if you lose it. What Yu Minji didn't tell Feng Wu was that the original owner would be able to locate the bag and retrieve it if they happen to lose it. Feng Wu wasn't convinced. That didn't sound right. Chapter 922. Chapter 922. Two swords working as one. She had been able to open this bag right away after Jun Linyuan dropped it. She detected no blood bond. You have to be mistaken. Feng Wu stared at Yu Minji. No, I'm not. Your infinity storage bag is definitely a superior grade one because common storage bags have a capacity of a couple of cubic meters at most. But yours can hold hundreds of cubic meters worth of stuff. Am I right? Feng Wu nodded. Wait, Yu Minji's face lit up when he took another look at Feng Wu's bag. Let me have a look. Feng Wu handed him the bag. This can't be. Yu Minji's eyes widened. Isn't this the Grand Pure One's infinity storage bag? Yes, it was his. Feng Wu asked, Who's the Grand Pure One? Yu Minji waved her off. He was this super tough magical beast that took the shape of a human being. It almost cost Jun Linyuan his life to kill that mutated King Kong monkey. So, how did the bag end up in your hands? Feng Wu said, He didn't want it and I picked it up off the ground. Yu Minji stared at Feng Wu as if he was looking at an idiot. You have no idea how valuable a storage bag like this is. It's worth a small fortune. Scratch that. It's worth more than a city. And you're telling me that Jun Linyuan just threw it away and you just happened to be there to pick it up? Feng Wu nodded. That's exactly what happened. Yu Minji said, I was there when Jun Linyuan fought the Grand Pure One, and I can't begin to tell you how many people wanted this thing. Someone actually wanted to trade a fortress for it, and Jun Linyuan wasn't tempted at all. And he tossed it away just like that? And you became its new owner? Feng Wu insisted, I'm telling you the truth. Not buying it. Despite her casual tone, Feng Wu pondered Yu Minji's words. If the bag was so precious that Jun Linyuan wouldn't exchange it for a fortress, then why did he give it up and let her have it? Feng Wu was at a loss. Was it some kind of trap? Feng Wu examined the bag over and over again, but nothing seemed off. However, this wasn't the time to worry about that. Killing Flame was her top priority now. Hey, that King Kong monkey. What was its attributes? Feng Wu asked Yu Minji, caressing the bag. Yu Minji said, it was fire. Feng Wu's eyes lit up.
Good.
This bag would come in really handy. Once the formation was set up, Feng Wu would need a core to make it work. As for what she would use. Hey, where did that bag go? Yu Minji couldn't see it anywhere after Feng Wu put it away, and he was intrigued. It'll be a key piece. You'll see. Feng Wu had just finished putting everything in place when heavy footsteps came from outside. They're here. Feng Wu led Yu Minji into the formation, and she took shelter behind a pile of snow. She cautioned Yu Minji, Did you memorize everything I told you? Yu Minji said, Don't worry. You can always count on me. Feng Wu rolled her eyes at him. Since when? Yu Minji, didn't know what to say. Jun Linyuan rushed in as they were speaking, and he immediately sensed the difference. A formation. He had been here when he rescued Fengwu earlier, and there was no formation.
But now it was little Fengwu.
Chapter 9:23. Chapter 9:23. Two swords working as one, too. Jun Linyuan's face lit up. He saw it right away. This formation was a trap set up by Fengwu, and the target was none other than that frosty night beast behind him. Roar! The beast charged into the cave when Jun Linyuan was still feeling a little dazed. Jun Linyuan wasn't as proficient in formations as Fengwu was, but he was no newbie. Moreover, Fengwu had left instructions when she set up the formation. The beast entered the cave to find itself faced with rolling mountains. The mounds were just mounds to Jun Linyuan, but to the beast, they were sky-high mountain peaks. Roar! The beast growled. Jun Linyuan swiftly made his way through the formation, the lower hem of his robe fluttering in the wind. That beast couldn't catch up with him. Realizing what Jun Linyuan's plan was, Fengwu applauded him inwardly. Jun Linyuan was indeed an incredible guy. One look at the formation, and he understood her strategy. He was using it against the beast now. Poor beast. It was all brawn and no brain. However, Jun Linyuan had both. If they carried on like this, they would be able to wrap this up very soon. That was it. Somewhere the beast couldn't see. Thump! Jun Linyuan appeared suddenly from behind a corner and stabbed the beast with Sky Destroyer. The frosty night beast wanted to dodge, but it walked right into the trap, which Fengwu had set up. It was a pit with needles at the bottom. Whoosh! The needles were all as long as a palm, and they all pierced the beast's paw. They were steel needles specially made by Fengwu, and which had been soaked in poison that would take effect at the lightest scratch, to say nothing of a pierced paw. However, it took time for the toxin to spread. The beast charged at Jun Linyuan, but Jun Linyuan disappeared into thin air in the next second. The beast was bewildered. Hiding in a corner, Fengwu grinned. That was incredible. The mark she left for a hiding place was very subtle, but Jun Linyuan had still found it right away. Thud, thud, thud. With the help of the formation, Jun Linyuan made one successful strike after another at the beast.
Poor beast.
Without adequate intelligence, it couldn't do anything but take the blows. Thump! Jun Linyuan launched another strike. This time, Sky Destroyer slid across the beast's neck, and Jun Linyuan disappeared again, leaving a small cut behind. The frosty night beast growled in frustration, but could only stomp its paws. Jun Linyuan had disappeared again. This was the worst, getting hit without being able to fight back. And this time, Jun Linyuan, Fengwu's stomach lurched. Shit. Jun Linyuan was coming her way. That was impossible. She had hidden herself so well, and in order to get to her, one had to find the only true path among 99 illusional ones. But Jun Linyuan had just succeeded. Was the guy really not a formation expert? Before Fengwu could react, Jun Linyuan had taken her by the wrist. You. Fengwu cried out. You should be fighting that beast. Why are you even here? Jun Linyuan glared at Fengwu. How can you stay here?
You should leave now.
Fengwu raised her chin. The most dangerous place is the safest. I designed this formation, and I know what it can do. However, at that moment. Chapter 9:24. Chapter 9:24. Two swords working as one. 3. Crack. All of a sudden, ice began to cover the ground as well as the walls. It was freezing. It was already cold inside the cave, but it had just gotten colder. Fengwu shivered involuntarily. It's freezing in here. Instead of checking the temperature, Jun Linyuan turned to look at the beast. By now, the beast was covered in wounds and blood was oozing out of all the cuts. It was surrounded by a strange energy. However, frosty white mist was rising from its body.
Shit.
Fengwu and Jun Linyuan cried out in unison. It's releasing a frosty mist. Feng Wu grabbed Jun Linyuan's hand and cried out, "It's going to destroy this formation with a low temperature." Feng Wu had to hand it to the beast. With all the wounds left by Jun Linyuan, it would only be a matter of time before it died from blood loss. Jun Linyuan would win the battle eventually. The Frosty Night Beast knew nothing about formations, but it could destroy what was trapping it here with sheer coldness. The formation would be deactivated if the temperature kept dropping. When that happened, they would have to start all over again. Without the help of the formation, the human teens would be at a disadvantage. Crack. More ice covered the ground as time passed, and the cracking sounds grew louder. They had to put an end to this. Jun Linyuan snuck up on the beast again. He struck down at the beast with Sky Destroyer, and realized in surprise that because of the ice covering its body, he was only able to make a shallow cut. The strike didn't hurt the beast. The Frosty Night Beast guffawed. It had been waiting for the teenager to show his face again. The beast stared at Jun Linyuan with its bloodshot eyes. It was injured, but so was Jun Linyuan, and both of them had been poisoned. As soon as it started releasing the cold energy again, Jun Linyuan had to make a move to fend it off. Crack. More ice covered the ground. However, Jun Linyuan sat down and began to make a hand seal. Soon, a streak of abnormal flame rose from his hands. More popped up to fight the ice. He had the fire attribute, and the beast had the ice attribute. One was trying to freeze the formation so that it would break apart. The other was trying to counteract with his abnormal flame to keep the formation active. Crack. The ice and the abnormal flame clashed. The range of their attacks kept shrinking until they were almost upon each other. Ice versus fire. They were clearly on equal footing, and neither one seemed to be able to gain the upper hand. So much so that they had reached an equilibrium. Meanwhile, an idea struck Feng Wu. Wait. They were in a stalemate. All they needed was a tipping point. What if she gave them that? Where are you going? Yu Minji grabbed Feng Wu's hand when she was about to jump out of the hiding place. It's now or never. Feng Wu took out the infinity storage bag which she had gotten from Jun Linyuan. Little Phoenix had been accumulating little balls of abnormal flame at Feng Wu's instruction. Little Phoenix had gotten its abnormal flame from Jun Linyuan, so the balls should do the job. Feng Wu only realized how precious the bag really was when Little Phoenix told her that it could store balls of abnormal flame in it. Feng Wu decided that she would have Little Phoenix store more on a daily basis. They might come in handy. Just then. Chapter 925. Chapter 925. Life or Death. Feng Wu clearly saw that this was the moment. While Jun Linyuan and the beast were still in a stalemate. Jun Linyuan had a large ball of flame in front of him, and the beast had a mass of frosty mist. It was like an incense stick that was burning at both ends. There was fire on one end and ice on the other. Neither would give in. Feng Wu's heart was pounding. This was it. It was time for that tipping point. What happened was quicker than words could describe. Raising the storage bag, Feng Wu poured the contents over the beast's head. Crash. The beast and Jun Linyuan were almost equal in capability, but then, Feng Wu joined the fight. Little balls of abnormal flame fell out onto the Frosty Night Beast's head. For a split second, time seemed to freeze. The next moment, roar. The Frosty Night Beast screeched. It wasn't just because of the little balls of fire. Jun Linyuan's abnormal flame gained the upper hand and crushed the beast. The fire soon surrounded the Frosty Night Beast and licked at its body.
Ah!
The Frosty Night Beast felt as if its soul was burning. It growled. Rumble. The sound resonated in the formation. Jun Linyuan and Feng Wu cried out in unison, shit. The beast had turned into a giant surrounded by both ice and fire, and it gave off a dark, malicious energy. The formation made a cracking sound, as if it was going to shatter. Taking Feng Wu's hand, Jun Linyuan dashed toward the cave opening. However, with a sweep of its giant paw, The beast trapped Jun Linyuan and Feng Wu in the formation. Seeing this, Xian Yi and the others wanted to run over and help the two of them. Feng Wu shouted, "Go!
Now.
You'll only get yourselves killed." Just then, the ceiling of the cave collapsed, and so did the formation under their feet. Roar! The frosty night beast howled. The sound disturbed everything within a 5 kilometers radius, and the ground shook violently. The ground shuddered with what felt like shock waves, which threw everyone off balance. Jun Linyuan would have been able to get Feng Wu out of the cave if he wasn't injured. However, with his injuries and the fierce fight, the toxin had spread through his body. Feng Wu saw that his skin was turning gray already. Even then, Jun Linyuan still shielded Feng Wu in his arms, making sure that none of the falling ice chunks hit her. And she wasn't affected by the strong wind either. Just then, there was another cracking sound, and Feng Wu looked down. Damn it! The ground had opened up, and the crack was widening. It was too late for Feng Wu to warn Jun Linyuan now. Die! The wild beast ran into Jun Linyuan in one final attack. The gap opened into a bottomless pit. The fall would kill Jun Linyuan. That beast had smashed into Jun Linyuan with all its strength. Jun Linyuan was knocked off his feet. The impact was incredible. Jun Linyuan pushed Feng Wu away as far as he could before he was knocked over. He then fell into the gap. However, before the beast fell, it sucked in one final breath before Feng Wu could land on her feet. Chapter 926. Chapter 926. What's going on? The beast hated Feng Wu even more, for it wouldn't have lost if this human girl hadn't interfered. Hence, the beast had to take Feng Wu down with it.
Poor Feng Wu.
This had to be her unluckiest day. The frosty night beast sucked in one final breath to pull Feng Wu in its direction. No! Feng Wu cried out. But she still got sucked in. Boss Jun. Little Feng Wu. Feng Sun, Xian Yi, and Yu Minji shouted in unison. Everything happened so fast, and in front of their eyes, these two people fell into the gap. It seemed to be 1,000 meters down, and frosty mist filled the air. Crack. The gap was still growing wider. The moment Jun Linyuan and Feng Wu fell into the gap. In Imperial College. Zhuoming had arrived at Imperial College as planned. Because of his teleportation ability, he was going to take over Grand Secretary Feng's position as acting principal and get the special clearance level. Once he achieved what he was here for, he would officially become acting principal, for Grand Secretary Feng would take the blame and resign. At that critical moment. Crack. Crack. What's that noise? Many people in the square heard it. Everyone exchanged looks of bewilderment. Hey,
look.
That screen. Someone cried out. All the parents looked up at the screen that had shown the candidate rankings before. The screen had gone dark after the communication loss, but right at that moment, it lit up again. What did that mean? All eyes lit up, and everyone was elated. The communication is back, isn't it? Isn't it? Judging by the ranking, it should be the case. The first was Shenyuan Yi, and the second Gongsun Qing. Grand Secretary Feng was about to give Zhuoming the right of power when it happened. Grand Secretary Feng cupped his hands at the ladder. Mr. Zhua, I'm afraid that this will have to wait. After that, Grand Secretary Feng and the other bosses of Imperial College entered the office that was for them alone. There, they would be able to see everything that was going on in proud Snowfield. Mr. Zhua, please wait here. Grand Secretary Feng gestured at Zhuoming. Zhuoming's face had turned livid. Why had Imperial College lost contact with those in proud Snowfield in the first place? Well, it had everything to do with Zhuoming. He was the one who had made it happen. Not only had he sent Blade after Feng Wu, he had also hired another mysterious figure, who was the one to cut communication between the Snowfield and the college. That was why he was confident that he would be able to repair the lost communication and, as a result, become the head of Imperial College. The position used to belong to Zhuohe, his brother, So, why couldn't he have it? However, the last thing he expected was for communication to come back on its own.
What was going on?
Zhuoming frowned. He couldn't understand it. Chapter 9:27. Chapter 9:27. The Great Fisher. Meanwhile, the bosses had arrived at the office. The candidate rankings were already on display on the screen. Snow fell thick and fast, the snowflakes dancing in a hazy mist. Frost hung over the gleaming white snowfield. Grand Secretary Fong and the others cried out when they saw the amount of snow. It was so much thicker than the last time they set eyes on the snowfield. It had more than doubled. They couldn't begin to imagine how cold it had to be in proud snowfield. No one could take their eyes off the candidates on the screen. The teenagers that used to be so vivacious looked miserable at the moment. Their cheeks were red and chapped from the cold wind, and their lips had turned purple. Frost had covered their eyebrows and hair, turning them into human-sized snowmen. Grand Secretary Fong, many parents outside are demanding to see the live feed. One of the teachers came in and said to Grand Secretary Fong in a hurry. Grand Secretary Fong frowned. The request wasn't unprecedented, but His Majesty commanded that Mr. Fong should show the live feed of proud snowfield to the parents to spare them the anxiety. Grand Secretary Fong was still hesitating when the chief steward showed up. His Majesty had spoken, so of course, Grand Secretary Fong had to oblige. Hence, Grand Secretary Fong agreed with a wave of his hand. Show them. And transmit a feed to the royal palace, too. Naturally, Grand Secretary Fong knew that the Empress Dowager was worried about the Crown Prince. Now that she could see the Crown Prince again, she would be pleased. Zhuoming's stomach lurched when he heard the news. Shit. What if the camera caught the people he sent in? What should he do then?
He had sent 2 teams of people in.
One was the killing squad Blade, who was to hunt down Feng Wu. The other was a mysterious and powerful cultivator, who was there to cut off communication. None of them could be seen. Zhuoming clenched his fists and realized that things were getting out of hand. Mr. Zhua, you look concerned. Grand Secretary Fong gave Zhuoming a knowing look. Since the live feed was being made available to the public, Zhuoming was invited into the office as well. It was a place that normally was only accessible to the 7 elders of Imperial College. Zhuoming was perturbed, but managed to keep his composure. He smiled. You're making fun of me, Grand Secretary Fong. No one from my family is taking the exam this year, which is why I'm not concerned at all. Is that so? Grand Secretary Fong said in a casual tone. Zhuoming said a silent prayer and hoped that Grand Secretary Fong didn't have too sharp a pair of eyes. Let's have a look at His Royal Highness first then, Zhuoming proposed. Grand Secretary Fong had control over the live feed and could decide which candidate would be shown on the screen. But Grand Secretary Fong shook his head. His Royal Highness isn't a candidate and can't be located like the others. What's more, His Royal Highness made himself untraceable from the beginning, which makes it impossible to show him on the screen. Unless, Zhuoming asked, unless what? Grand Secretary Fong said, unless he's with a candidate. Controlled by Grand Secretary Fong's mind, the screen showed the snowfield from a high vantage point as the camera quickly flitted through the land. Soon, the camera fixed on Xianyuan Yi. Xianyuan Yi was running for his life, along with the group of people behind him. Oh, God, the mountains have collapsed, and there's a great fissure in the snowfield. Shocked, Elder Xianyuan was the first to get to his feet. Chapter 9:28. Chapter 9:28. Uncertain. They knew things would be bad in proud Snowfield, but now that they saw the fleeing candidates, that fissure was chasing the candidates and was widening as they watched. Any slower, and the candidates would all be swallowed up. They really could be killed. In the square, the parents saw their children running away from that huge crack in the ground, and they held their breaths in fear. OMG. Why is this happening? Why would they choose such difficult terrain for the candidates? They're just kids. Is my child going to die? Where is His Royal Highness? Didn't he lead a team in to save the candidates? Where are they now? Just then, the ground shook violently.
Ah!
There was a cry of surprise. That was Grand Secretary Fong's stomach turned, for he recognized the voice. It was Feng Wu. Feng Wu then showed up on the screen abruptly. Then, everyone watched as their revered crown prince was knocked into the grand fissure by a wild beast. No! They all watched in astonishment and covered their mouths in disbelief. That was Jun Linyuan, the crown prince that was supposed to be invincible and omnipotent. He had just fallen into a gap in the ground because of a terrifying magical beast. What on earth was that beast? The Frosty Night Beast. That's the king of proud Snowfield. It owns the place. Elder Xianyuan stared at Grand Secretary Fong in disbelief. The Frosty Night Beast has shown up. Grand Secretary Fong had never looked so serious. He realized that he hadn't thought it through thoroughly enough. That Frosty Night Beast was too mighty a beast for Feng Wu to handle. She needed its heart of frost essence, but even with Yu Minji's help, it had been a reckless decision, way too reckless. However, Grand Secretary Fong had yet to recover from the shock when the beast sucked in one last breath before it fell.
Phew!
The beast sucked Feng Wu toward it. Everyone jumped to their feet, for they saw Jun Linyuan, the Frosty Night Beast, and Feng Wu fall into the bottomless pit together. Oh God! The Empress Dowager fainted after witnessing that scene. The entire imperial capital was in shock. His Royal Highness had fallen into that great fissure.
Was he going to die?
Could the invincible crown prince be killed? He was the hope of the empire. Quickly, everyone prompted Grand Secretary Fong. Show us His Royal Highness. Grand Secretary Fong was equally worried. If anything happened to Jun Linyuan in proud Snowfield, his days as the principal of Imperial College would be over. Moreover, it was common knowledge that the emperor couldn't afford to lose Jun Linyuan. Mother. Seeing Jun Linyuan fall into the abyss, Emperor Wu was also filled with apprehension, but his mother had just passed out from fear, and he had to be tough. Master Chu hadn't arrived yet, and Emperor Wu had to pinch his mother's philtrum to wake her up. Emperor Wu and his mother weren't alone in Sinang Palace. Empress Dugu was there, too. Empress Dugu had been fawning on the Empress Dowager lately, and she was all docile and demure around the old lady. As a result, the Empress Dowager found her more likable than before and had allowed the Empress to keep her company more often. Hence, Empress Dugu saw it too. Jun Linyuan fell into that huge gap, and no one knew if he would survive. Chapter 929. Chapter 929. Jun Linyuan is going to die. A look of pleasant surprise flickered in Empress Dugu's eyes, but she looked down before anyone else noticed. Was Jun Linyuan really going to die? If he did die, the crown would belong to the Empire's second son, aka her son. The Empress Dowager woke up while Empress Dugu was allowing her imagination to run wild. My baby Jun, the Empress Dowager burst into tears and wouldn't let go of Emperor Wu's hand. What happened to baby Jun? How is he now? Emperor Wu didn't know any better and was equally flustered. Why isn't Grand Secretary Fong showing us anything? I need to see Jun Linyuan now. Emperor Wu summoned a servant. Go tell Grand Secretary Fong to show us what we want to see. As a matter of fact, Grand Secretary Fong had changed the image on the screen already. Luckily, Feng Wu was there, or they wouldn't have been able to see the crown prince. Whoosh! The wind was howling. Snatched by the beast, Feng Wu was stuck tightly to its belly. Looking down, Feng Wu saw a bottomless pit beneath them. Jun Linyuan, the beast, and herself were falling at a tremendous speed. Shit! Jun Linyuan had fallen first, followed by the beast with Feng Wu stuck to its belly. If they hit the ground now, Jun Linyuan would be on the bottom. When that happened, even someone like Jun Linyuan would be crushed to a pulp. They weren't that far from the bottom, so Feng Wu reached out to grab Jun Linyuan. Everyone saw it on the screen. The Empress Dowager was the most nervous one. She pressed her hands to her chest and prayed for Jun Linyuan. However, Feng Wu missed. She nearly fell off the beast's belly herself. Feng Wu grabbed the beast's fur to steady herself. This wouldn't do. She needed a strategy. And she needed it now. Otherwise, Jun Linyuan would die. She wasn't the only one who was concerned, so was everyone who was in front of the screen. Especially the Empress Dowager. Clenching her fists, the old lady murmured, "Little Feng Wu, I'll treat you nicely from now on if you can save my baby Jun. You have to save him." However, next to her, Empress Duga smirked. Feng Wu was a good-for-nothing. How would she be able to save Jun Linyuan? What a joke. But Feng Wu, she's a cripple with no spiritual essence. Empress Duga sighed and feigned a worried look. Instantly, Sinang Palace fell into a despairing silence. That was right. Feng Wu had no cultivation ability. There was no way she could stop an unconscious Jun Linyuan from falling, let alone drag him up and prepare for the impact. The Empress Dowager couldn't see any hope. "Feng Wu, I'll have your entire family killed and the rest of your clan banished if you can't save the crown prince," the Empress Dowager bellowed. The Empress Dowager knew that Feng Wu wasn't to be blamed for losing her ability, but she was still furious. Everyone in the room felt sorry for Feng Wu. Grand Secretary Fong and the others had also hurried over to the Imperial Palace so that the Empress Dowager could question them. The faces of Emperor Wu and his mother were livid. The entire Sinang Palace seemed to be covered in a dark cloud. Chapter 930. Chapter 930. Is Jun Linyuan dead? 1. No one could predict how the emperor and his mother would react if Jun Linyuan was killed. Neither could Feng Wu. But she still instinctively tried to save Jun Linyuan. What was more pressing was that she didn't know that communication was back on. Grand Secretary Fong wanted to remind Feng Wu, but his voice couldn't go through. Only then did Grand Secretary Fong realize that the girl had turned her sound off. Because of that, Grand Secretary Fong felt anxious for Feng Wu. If things didn't go as planned, the girl would be in a lot of trouble. However, what was more important was for her to get through this. One of Feng Wu's merits was that danger only cooled her head. They were almost at the bottom, and she was running out of time. Feng Wu took out a rope, tied herself to the beast, then jumped off. Whoosh! The next moment she was next to Jun Linyuan. Those watching in front of the screen held their breaths for Feng Wu. It was easy to pull this off if she were on flat ground, but she was able to stay level-headed while falling through an abyss. That surprised everyone. The Empress Dowager stared at Feng Wu and wished that she could go in herself to drag Jun Linyuan out. But Feng Wu might have reached Jun Linyuan, but it wasn't easy to pull Jun Linyuan up. Thanks to Feng Wu's swift moves and tough nerves, she was able to grab Jun Linyuan while they were falling. However, it was a different story when she wanted to get them back onto the beast. Her best option right now was to wake Jun Linyuan up. She patted Jun Linyuan's cheek. "Wake up. Wake up now." In such a situation, Feng Wu used a bit too much force. That enraged the Empress Dowager. What's wrong with Feng Wu? She's hitting him so hard she could kill him. Grand Secretary Fong darted a look at the Empress Dowager. That was all she cared about in this moment of life and death. But in fact, many people found what Feng Wu was doing infuriating. Especially the girls. Jun Linyuan was like a deity no one should ever defile, but what was Feng Wu doing? She was slapping him. How could she bring herself to do it? Feng Wu was busy saving Jun Linyuan and had no idea that she was being observed by so many people, let alone the fact that those people were hating her for it. Feng Wu was exasperated. She could only count on herself if Jun Linyuan remained unconscious. Feng Wu shifted in the air, tied Jun Linyuan on her back, then tried to climb up the rope. They were already falling at a frightening speed, but now, she was trying to climb up? That was impossible. Just then, crack. Feng looked up to see the beast turn its head and stare at her with its beady eyes. Shit. Feng cursed under her breath. The beast wasn't dead. It was still breathing. It had kept very still, so Feng had been sure that it was dead. But it wasn't. Shit. As if it wasn't difficult enough. Why was it so hard to live in this world? In front of the screen, everyone's stomachs lurched when they saw the beast open its eyes. It was especially so with the Empress Dowager. Chapter 931. Chapter 931. Is Jun Linyuan dead? 2. Seeing that the beast was still alive, the Empress Dowager gasped in astonishment. It's still alive. How can it still be alive? She would tear the beast into pieces if she could. And the rest of the audience was as flustered as she was. Would Jun Linyuan survive? That was the question that lingered in everyone's heads. Emperor Wu clenched his fists anxiously. Feng Wu, you have to make it work. The empire couldn't afford to lose Jun Linyuan, the greatest heir to the throne in history. By then, many had arrived at court in a hurry, but only a handful were permitted to enter Sinang Palace. Lady Northern Feng was one of them. She rushed into the palace like a gust of wind. What now? What's happening? Is His Royal Highness in danger? Lady Northern Feng went up to the Empress Dowager in a hurry, for the latter looked awful. The Empress Dowager seemed to settle down a little after Lady Northern Feng arrived. She forgot about Empress Dugo right away and grabbed Lady Northern Feng's hand instead. Yaya, look. Baby Jun. Lady Northern Feng looked up at the screen. At that moment, Feng Wu had Jun Linyuan tied onto her back and was climbing up the rope. However, the beast still clung to life and was trying to sever the rope. Feng Wu had tied the rope to the beast's leg, and it was now scraping at the rope with its claw. Luckily, it was already very weak, or the rope would have been cut already. However, the thick rope was being picked apart bit by bit. It would break, eventually. Gradually, the rope wasn't able to hold the weight of 2 people. Everyone in front of the screen realized that if Feng Wu abandoned Jun Linyuan now, she would be able to climb back onto the beast and survive the fall. She wouldn't, if Jun Linyuan was still on her back. Seeing Feng Wu begin to untie Jun Linyuan from herself, the Empress Dowager was furious. Pointing at Feng Wu, she bellowed in a trembling voice. What's she doing? What's she trying to do? What was Feng Wu going to do? It was the thought that was in the minds of many. Was Feng Wu going to abandon Jun Linyuan now to save her own life? In a moment of life and death, would she choose someone else's life over her own? Many asked themselves the question, and the answer was no. There was nothing wrong with Feng Wu's choice. However, it was a live feed and people were watching. If Feng Wu did that and came out alive, she would wish she were dead after she left the snowfield. The royal family's revenge would be unimaginable. Moreover, she wouldn't be the only one to receive a death sentence, so would everyone who had the slightest connection to her. Lady Northern Feng clenched her fists, and her face tightened. Grand Secretary Feng was equally nervous. He hadn't felt like this for many years. But Feng Wu's choice was unexpected. The beast guffawed and was ready to embrace the ground when Feng Wu threw Jun Linyuan upward with all her might. The strength she exerted. It was unbelievable. Chapter 932. Chapter 932. She's not a cripple. 1. Grand Secretary Feng's stomach lurched. Oh no. Feng Wu's cultivation ability had been exposed. She would never be able to throw Jun Linyuan upward for over 100 meters if she didn't have any spiritual essence. Moreover, a bird also popped out of thin air. It grabbed Jun Linyuan and stopped him from falling too fast. That bird was none other than her mount. Without spiritual essence, she would never be able to form a bond with a magical beast, so that it would do as told. Little Feng Wu, you've just exposed yourself. But Grand Secretary Feng scanned the room and realized that everyone was too concerned about Jun Linyuan's safety to notice what Feng Wu had done. He sighed inwardly with relief. However, at that moment, the beast wouldn't give up. It stared at Feng Wu and smirked. Immediately after that, it summoned all the strength it had left and hurtled downward in Feng Wu's direction. It would take as many lives with it as possible. People watched as the beast fell on Feng Wu like a collapsing mountain. Shit. Feng Wu's stomach lurched. She emitted a streak of flame at the last moment, which shot the beast in the eye in a blazing beam of light. Thud. It pierced the beast through its eye. The beast screamed, and the sound was ear-splitting. By then, Feng Wu had almost reached the bottom. At the last moment, she threw the rope around the beast's neck and swung herself up. Feng Wu and Jun Linyuan landed on the beast almost at that exact moment, and the impact nearly shattered their bones. But it successfully balanced out the momentum of their fall. What was more, they bounced off the beast a little and were actually a little further up in the air than before. But the ground was less than 100 meters away. The beast crash-landed first. Thump. Feng Wu calculated the angle carefully so that she and Jun Linyuan fell right on top of the beast's plump belly. Thump. The beast's stomach exploded and entrails spurted out. Some even fell on Feng Wu and Jun Linyuan's clothes. By using the beast as a buffer, Feng Wu and Jun Linyuan didn't suffer very severe injuries from the fall. Concerned with Jun Linyuan's existing wounds, Feng Wu made sure that he landed on top of her.
Ouch.
Jun Linyuan's head hit her right in the chest and nearly knocked the air out of her. Luckily, they both survived. In front of the screen, everyone watched with open mouths. Feng Wu was able to kill the beast at the last moment, used its body as a cushion, and chose the perfect angle to land. Everything she did had been unexpected. Is that Feng Wu? Did she really do all that? Am I seeing things? Everyone stared at Feng Wu in disbelief. How did she do it? Wait. Someone in the crowd cried out. It was Elder Xianyuan. Isn't Feng Wu a cripple with no cultivation ability? Did she look like she had no spiritual essence? The old man asked the crowd. That reminded everyone. That was right. Feng Wu's moves were so swift and smooth that even a cultivator would find it hard to pull them off, let alone a cripple with no abilities. Chapter 933. Chapter 933. She's not a cripple. 2. If that's what a cripple looks like, then what are we? Wait, did you notice the flame foam we used to kill the beast with? She was using the fire attribute. She has abilities, okay? And there's more. That bird is a spiritual pet and can only be joined to its owner by a spiritual contract. She can't be a cripple. Soon, everyone was talking about it. Grand Secretary Fong rubbed his forehead. Feng Wu was exposed. She really was. 2 people in the crowd had already gone green in the face. They were Zhuaming and Empress Dugu. Feng Wu was no longer a cripple. She had spiritual essence. Judging by the way she moved, she was a pretty good cultivator too, and not just some newbie. Zhuaming looked shaken. They had made sure that Feng Wu's true phoenix blood was destroyed, but she somehow got it back? Zhuaming clenched his fists. He decided that he would write to Zhu Qingluan about it after he got back. Emperor Wu and the Empress Dowager were equally shocked. Feng Wu had spiritual essence. How had she been able to keep it from everyone? Emperor Wu recalled something Feng Wu had said before. She claimed that everything had been the Zhua family's doing. So, was she afraid of the Zhua family acting against her if they found out? At that thought, Emperor Wu darted a look at Zhuaming out of the corner of his eye. What he saw made Emperor Wu think. Zhuaming really did look awful. So, exactly how reliable was Feng Wu's accusation? On the other hand, the only thing the Empress Dowager cared about was her grandson. Where's my baby Jun? Is he alright? Why isn't he awake? Everyone was still shocked by the fact that Feng Wu had spiritual essence, and they had forgotten about the Crown Prince for a moment. At the reminder, everyone turned their attention back to the Crown Prince. By then, Feng Wu had dragged Jun Linyuan off the beast. Everyone stared at Feng Wu in surprise. She's so rough. Empress Duga grunted. That she was. Feng Wu pulled the crown prince out of a bloody pile as if she was handling a ragged doll. She showed him no consideration. It looked merciless. That was why everyone was so astonished. Especially the girls. How could she do that? The crown prince was like a god to them, and the thought of doing anything to him felt like defilement. They would be satisfied with looking at the teenager from afar, but what did Feng Wu do? She grabbed his arm and dragged him out. As if he was one of that beast's entrails, many were indignant at the sight. In Sinang Palace, the Empress Dowager's face had turned livid. Her gaze was so intense that it could bore into Feng Wu's skin. Seeing the look on the old lady's face, Grand Secretary Fong sighed inwardly. Little Feng Wu, you really should be more careful about such things. Someone mumbled something at that moment. Isn't Feng Wu supposed to be in love with His Royal Highness? Is that how one shows their affection? Many looked puzzled. Judging by how rough Feng Wu was, they couldn't see any sign of her being in love with His Royal Highness. That baffled everyone in Sinang Palace, as well as all the people watching the live feed on the screen outside. Because of the Emperor's order, the live feed was being broadcasted to the public. Chapter 934. Chapter 934. She's not the cripple. 3. Although they couldn't hear Feng Wu's voice, for the screen was on mute, everyone could see what was going on. It was such big news that it spread in no time. The entire imperial capital heard about it in a matter of minutes, and more people rushed to the square outside Imperial College. The place was soon packed. Feng Lu and her parents were there. So was Duan Chaoga's family.
And Yi Yafei.
Many more were arriving at the square. They all saw how roughly Feng Wu handled the crown prince, and Feng Yanfeng was furious. He wanted to throttle that idiotic girl. That was the crown prince. Did she know what she was doing? Everyone was talking at the same time. Duan Chaoga's parents were there as well, and Mr. Duan darted a look at Feng Yanfeng when he saw what Feng Wu was doing. Mr. Duan said, Master Feng, that daughter of your family. Feng Yanfeng said, she has brought shame to my entire family. I'm sorry you had to see it. Feng Yanfeng was conflicted. When would it end? What other blasphemous thing would Feng Wu do? Feng Yanfeng was on edge. Someone in the crowd made a comment. I thought Feng Wu was in love with His Royal Highness, but it doesn't look like it. His Royal Highness cancelled his marriage contract with Feng Wu. After such a humiliation, she would never be in love with His Royal Highness. What are you even thinking? But His Royal Highness is so exceptional. What's wrong with liking him? His Royal Highness is extraordinary, but Feng Wu isn't too bad herself either. Feng Wu? Not too bad? Her nickname is Failure Wu. Don't you know that? My friend, you missed the first half, didn't you? What first half? If you were here earlier, you couldn't have missed it. Feng Wu has spiritual essence, and she's no Failure Wu. She was actually pretty impressive. Feng Yanfeng's head went blank when he heard those words.
What?
Feng Wu had spiritual essence? Impossible. Feng Yanfeng didn't buy it, for he hadn't detected any spiritual essence on Feng Wu. But the other person was very persistent. Feng Wu has cultivation ability. She really does. And her level is higher than a spiritual master. How do you know that? Everyone here knows. Feng Wu, His Royal Highness, and that frosty night beast were falling together. The onlooker then described what happened for those that had missed the first part. His narration was vivid and full of excitement. Really? Feng Wu actually saved His Royal Highness? And what she did sounds so complicated. You don't say. Feng Wu was really impressive. Do I need to remind you that she was considered a super genius 5 years ago? That's right. If that incident 5 years ago hadn't happened, she'd probably be as capable as His Royal Highness now. The onlookers started an animated discussion, and the topic was Feng Wu's cultivation level. Feng Yanfeng's eyes widened. So much, so that his eyes popped out. How is that possible? How? Feng Yanfeng, Lady Wang, and Feng Lu exchanged looks of disbelief. Chapter 935. Chapter 935. She's not a cripple. 4. That's not possible. They have to be mistaken. They have to be, Lady Wang murmured to herself. The news of Feng Wu recovering her ability hit Lady Wang the hardest. Because it would be a disaster for her. Was Feng Wu going to rise and become the star of the clan once more, like she used to be? That wasn't what disturbed Lady Wang the most. What really worried her was if Feng Wu found out that Feng Yanfeng's family had been involved in that incident 5 years ago. Lady Wang's pupils contracted. Feng Lu was so nervous that she thought her heart was going to jump out of her throat. Her mood was darker than a stormy sky. No, they had to be mistaken. Feng Lu would rather die than admit the truth. And she wasn't the only one. Yi Yifei, Duan Chaoyue, and many other girls all wished that it was just a nightmare and that they would wake up soon. Meanwhile, Feng Wu went on with her task, without any idea that her actions were being scrutinized by the entire city. After dragging Jun Linyuan away from the beast, she found somewhere flat and lay him down. Feng Wu shook the teenager. Your Royal Highness, wake up. However, Jun Linyuan was drained of all color under the blood which covered his face. His eyes were shut tight, and his teeth were clenched together. He was unconscious. Feng Wu checked his breathing. The look on her face changed. The Empress Dowager panicked when she saw the grim look on Feng Wu's face. What's going on? What happened to my dear baby Jun? Many cried out with her. The toughest part was over. Your Royal Highness, you can't die now. Feng Wu then checked Jun Linyuan's pulse, and her face darkened further. The toxin had reached his heart, and he was in grave condition. He really would die if she didn't do something now. Whoosh! Feng Wu untied Jun Linyuan's robe, exposing the fair skin of his chest. That woman had just taken His Royal Highness's clothes off. Many girls found her actions outrageous, but wished more than anything that they could take Feng Wu's place. The Empress Dowager didn't react, for she knew that Feng Wu was examining Jun Linyuan. However, the next second, no one could believe what they were seeing. Feng Wu lowered her head, stared at Jun Linyuan, then put her mouth on Jun Linyuan's with such a resolute look on her face that one would think that she was embracing her death. What? OMG! The crowd exploded. Feng Wu, what's she doing? What does she think she's doing? His Royal Highness is in critical condition, but all she can think of is taking advantage of him when he's unconscious. Oh, God, I thought she didn't have feelings for His Royal Highness just then, since she didn't show him any compassion earlier. I can't believe how sleazy she is. This is so scary. That woman is so scary. I want to kill her. Feng Yanfeng blanched. Feng Wu. She had lost her mind. Sinang Palace. The Empress Dowager's face had turned purple, and Emperor Wu looked equally mad. Feng Wu. That Feng Wu. I'm going to kill her. I will. The Empress Dowager clenched her fists and her face twisted. For a moment there, she thought that Feng Wu was going to save her grandson. And she actually believed that Feng Wu wasn't in love with her baby Jun. Chapter 936. Chapter 936. She's not a cripple. 5. She should never have trusted that girl. What was going to happen next? The Empress Dowager couldn't bring herself to think about it. Out! Everyone out! The Empress Dowager believed that she knew where this was going. That Feng Wu. She was so dead. The Empress Dowager swore in her head. Only then did Emperor Wu wake up from the initial shock and turn to Grand Secretary Feng. Is the screen outside still showing this? Grand Secretary Feng smacked his own head. He had been so shocked by Feng Wu's action that he had completely forgotten about the big screen outside the college. Turn it off.
Now.
Emperor Wu bellowed at Grand Secretary Feng. Grand Secretary Feng nodded repeatedly. And he didn't even have to go out to do that, for he could control it with his mind. Click. The screen outside went dark right away. Instantly, the people in the square went wild. What was happening was so rare that everyone who had heard the news was here. The square that was built to contain 10,000 people was packed with 10 times more that. And still more people were flooding in. But the screen had turned off at such a critical moment. People were displeased. What's going on? Why did that happen? Why is it switched off? That was the most important part. Why aren't we allowed to watch it? Where are the people in charge of the screen? Fix it. Compared with the others, who were eager to know what was going on, Feng Yanfeng stood there with a face darker than ink. He had never expected something like this. How could Feng Wu? Oh, God. Feng Yanfeng really thought that the Feng clan was doomed. The entire clan would be annihilated. Mr. Duan offered a piece of advice. Master Feng, I don't think Miss Feng will survive the consequences even if she makes it out alive, but you still have to think of the future of so many other youngsters in your clan. He couldn't have made himself any clearer. The Empire would punish Feng Wu for what she had done. They had seen it, and it went without saying that Her Majesty the Empress Dowager had seen it, too. Would she let Feng Wu go without any punishment? Obviously not. Therefore, thank you, Master Duan. Without hesitation, Feng Yanfeng took Lady Wang and Feng Lu with him and hurried back home. Once he got back, he summoned his clansmen and made arrangements for them to flee the imperial capital, but that would be something to talk about later. Everyone in the square felt indignant at what they saw. Feng Wu's fame was gone as quickly as it had been earned. However, Feng Wu had no idea of any of this. She was busy using CPR to save Jun Linyuan. The fight with the beast had caused the toxin to spread. The beast had then knocked Jun Linyuan down and pushed them into the gap. It had been one thing after another, and even Jun Linyuan couldn't endure it. He was in a coma. Feng Wu released Jun Linyuan after breathing into his mouth. Everyone in Xinang Palace let out breaths of relief. But, to their fury, Feng Wu bent down again. How can she do that? She's lost her mind. That has to be it. The Empress Dowager wanted to smash the screen. However, Feng Wu was in a good mood, for Jun Linyuan was breathing again. It was shallow, but his life was no longer in danger. Chapter 937. Chapter 937. What to do now? Feng Wu knew that she was only getting started. Hence, whoosh. Feng Wu began to take off the rest of Jun Linyuan's clothes.
Fast.
His robe, his shirt, his undergarment. Jun Linyuan was already bare-chested, and he was stripped down to thin mid-length underpants. Seeing this, the Empress Dowager thought she was going to lose her mind. Her baby Jun was a neat freak and a very serious one. He couldn't stand any woman being within a meter of him. But now, Feng Wu, that abominable girl, was taking advantage of him. How dare she?
Out.
Everyone out. The Empress Dowager gave the order to the other people in the room.
Of course, she wouldn't let them stay.
Before long, everyone was thrown out of the palace. The Empress Dowager and Emperor Wu stayed behind. Empress Dugu wanted to stay, but the mother and son wouldn't let her. Lady Northern Feng, on the other hand, trusted Feng Wu as always, so she held the old lady's hand, went down on her knees, and begged the latter to let her stay. Your Majesty, Feng Wu is my goddaughter, and I don't believe she would do such a thing to the Crown Prince. Your Majesty, please let me stay. If Feng Wu really does what you think she's going to do, I'll kill her myself. The Empress Dowager glared at Lady Northern Feng. She had forgotten all about the fondness she had for Lady Northern Feng. As a matter of fact, the old lady was mad at Lady Northern Feng because of her relationship with Feng Wu. Emperor Wu, on the other hand, waved it off. Yaya's right. She's Feng Wu's godmother after all, so let her stay. He didn't think much of it, for he didn't believe in men getting taken advantage of. but what happened next baffled them. Feng Wu took out a pack of acupuncture needles after she removed Jun Linyuan's clothes. She then unrolled the pack, took out a finger-long thin needle, and stuck it into the top of Jun Linyuan's head with steady fingers. All three people opened their eyes wide. Seriously? They had been expecting X-rated images, but Feng Wu was actually treating Jun Linyuan with acupuncture. What Feng Wu did next only convinced them more. She went on sticking more needles into Jun Linyuan. There were 21 in total, which were stuck into his head, chest, abdomen, and even the bottoms of his feet. Feng Wu raised her hands when all the needles were in place. Pale green dots of light fell from her fingertips like fireflies.
That.
The Empress Dowager was dumbfounded. She's doing something spectacular, isn't she? Emperor Wu opened his eyes wide in amazement. That's right. Master Chu is the only other physician I know of who can treat patients with this sort of green light. And Master Chu was a supreme-level medicine refiner. He was the best medicine refiner in the Bureau of Physicians. Lady Northern Feng could finally breathe normally again. For a moment there, she thought she was going to have a heart attack. Come to think of it, Feng Wu was really an amazing physician. She could even use that green light. Xiao Wu is almost as good a physician as Master Chu is, right? Lady Northern Feng asked gingerly. Emperor Wu glanced at Lady Northern Feng. He wanted to tell her that Master Chu wasn't able to emit as much green light as this during his treatment, and his light wasn't as green and full of spiritual essence as Feng Wu's either. Chapter 938. Chapter 938. His twinkling eyes. Emperor Wu didn't want to admit what that meant. The Empress Dowager gritted her teeth. So, the girl has been trying to save baby Jun all along. Lady Northern Feng and Emperor Wu nodded in unison. The old lady snorted.
Fine.
But why did she kiss baby Jun? Was that a down payment? Lady Northern Feng said, Your Majesty, I've heard about this method of breathing into another person's mouth. It's said to be a way to save those that aren't breathing. Really? The Empress Dowager asked. Lady Northern Feng nodded.
Yes.
I think that was what little Feng Wu was doing. The Empress Dowager snorted. How can you tell? There will be consequences if she can't save baby Jun. Lady Northern Feng rubbed her forehead. The Empress Dowager was so biased. What had Feng Wu done to deserve this?
Did she want to be snatched by the beast?
Did she make the wrong move in trying to save Jun Linyuan? And shouldn't she try to get Jun Linyuan breathing again? And what was wrong with treating Jun Linyuan with acupuncture? She should be applauded, even if it was just for her efforts alone. However, to the old lady, Feng Wu would be executed if she failed to cure Jun Linyuan. Poor kid. Lady Northern Feng sighed and said a silent prayer for Feng Wu. Meanwhile, on the other side of the screen, Feng Wu was treating Jun Linyuan with her green light. And it could cure anything. The light flitted around Jun Linyuan like fireflies, and the dots danced in the air like little fairies. It then seeped into his skin and entered his system. Once all the light had been absorbed. To Feng Wu's relief, she saw Jun Linyuan frown a little. Recalling what a neat freak Jun Linyuan was, Feng Wu wet her handkerchief with some ice water and began to wipe him clean. That was what Jun Linyuan saw when he woke up, Feng Wu tidying him up. Her bright eyes looked stunning in her tiny face. While she cleaned him, there was something very gentle about her, which was something he very rarely saw. Jun Linyuan watched her movements with half-closed eyes. You, his husky voice sounded mesmerizingly sexy. Feng Wu said grumpily, You're still very sick. The toxin isn't completely out of your system yet, and it's given you a fever. It's very serious. So, don't talk and lay still. Despite his weakened state, Jun Linyuan still had a brooding look in his eyes, which reminded one of the bottomless ocean. The only thing he did was to touch his lips lightly with his fingers. His eyes twinkled. Feng Wu hadn't thought much of it when she performed the CPR, but Jun Linyuan's movement gave the whole thing a different meaning. She threw a dirty look at Jun Linyuan. The tiniest smile appeared in Jun Linyuan's eyes, but it was gone in a split second. Even Feng Wu missed it, let alone the other people watching. Outside Sinang Palace, Zhuoming clenched his fists with a livid face. Zhou Qinghuan had been rising rapidly in the last 5 years, and so had the Zhou family. They had moved from the bottom of the list up to 5th of the 9 major clans. They had always been convinced that Feng Wu was a good-for-nothing, and the killing squad had only been sent in to tie up loose ends. Zhuoming was genuinely surprised that Feng Wu had gotten her ability back. How had she done it? Did she still have true phoenix blood? Chapter 939. Chapter 939. Baby June is my top priority. Grand Secretary Fong counted the number of days in his head. The 7 days would be up in a few minutes, and he prayed that Feng Wu would be very careful in the little time that was left. She couldn't afford any mistakes now. What she was doing just then, he hoped that she was only doing it to save the teenager. On the other side of the screen, Feng Wu smacked her head. Hey, I almost got my priorities wrong. She then ran off, leaving Jun Linyuan behind. The Empress Dowager was dumbfounded. Her baby June was the apple of her eye and the crown prince of the empire. What was that Feng Wu girl doing? She left him in the middle of treatment? What was she up to? The camera followed Feng Wu, for she was the candidate. The Empress Dowager watched as Feng Wu ran over to the beast and stuck her fair hands into its chest. She began to fumble around inside. The old lady frowned and her face turned livid. How is that beast more important than her baby June? A moment later, Feng Wu took out a fist-sized heart from its chest and carefully put it into a storage bag. The Empress Dowager's eyes lit up. She grabbed Emperor Wu's hand immediately and asked loudly, "That storage bag belongs to my baby June, right? It's his, isn't it? I saw it on him the other day." Emperor Wu nodded. "Yes, it's his." The Empress Dowager frowned. "But why is that girl using my baby June's bag? How did she get her hands on it? Did she steal it from him?" Feng Wu had never left a good impression on the old lady. With everything that had happened, she only disliked Feng Wu more. Lady Northern Feng tried to speak up for Feng Wu.
She couldn't have.
She wouldn't dare to do such a thing. There has to be some sort of misunderstanding here. The Empress Dowager cast a stern look at Lady Northern Feng. Why couldn't she? Tell me how else she got it then? Humph. Lady Northern Feng rubbed her forehead. That was what the old lady was like. She wouldn't hear one bad word about people she liked, but for those that didn't earn her affection, she wouldn't give them a chance. The old lady stared at Feng Wu. Why isn't she treating my baby June? What's she doing there? Then, the old lady saw Feng Wu put a hand on the beast's forehead, and a faint streak of spiritual essence flowed from the beast to Feng Wu. Even a blind man could see that Feng Wu was absorbing the Frosty Night Beast's spiritual essence. The Empress Dowager was furious. She smacked the table. My baby June is in such bad condition. Why is she carving out the beast's heart when she should be looking after him? And she's so busy absorbing that beast's spiritual essence. What's wrong with her? Lady Northern Feng darted a quick glance at the Empress Dowager. Your Majesty, that's no common magical beast. That's a Frosty Night Beast, and its heart was known as the Heart of Frost Essence. Not to mention that the beast's spiritual essence was incredibly dense. Sure enough, Lady Northern Feng noticed the gray stars on Feng Wu's headband begin to flicker. Then, like little candles, they lit up one after another. 1, 2, 3, all 7. There were 7 of them in total, and only after the system deemed the candidate worthy of 700 points would they all light up. Chapter 940. Chapter 940. Don't forget our bet. Lady Northern Feng had to explain on Feng Wu's behalf. Your Majesty, little Feng Wu is still taking the exam. She'll get a 0 if she doesn't absorb the spiritual essence now. The old lady was still displeased. So, what if she gets a 0? What does it matter? Are those marks more important than my baby June? Lady Northern Foam said in resignation. I heard that little Foam Wu made a bet with someone, and she'll die if she loses. The Empress Dowager said, she's more important than baby June? Daya, is that what you're saying? Why are you on her side? Does that girl mean more than baby June to you? Lady Northern Foam was speechless. What more could she say at this point? She had no choice but to pick sides. His Royal Highness is more important, of course, but I'm sure Xiao Wu only did that because she knew that the Crown Prince was. What? The Empress Dowager cast a stern look at Lady Northern Foam. Lady Northern Foam was speechless. On the other side, Foam Wu finally drained the beast of all its spiritual essence, but she still wasn't satisfied with the outcome. If she hadn't been busy saving June Linyuan, she would have had more time to work on the beast and could have absorbed much more spiritual essence. Just then, the countdown started. 10, 9, 8, 7. And the last second, thud. Everyone was teleported out of Proud Snowfield in that instant. Light flashed in Foam Wu's head, and the next second, she was in a teleportation space. All the candidates were there, except for the 100 that had withdrawn from the exam. During the short period of time before the exam ended, other than running away from that fissure in the ground, everyone had been hunting as many magical beasts as they could, so that they could accumulate more spiritual essence. The life-threatening danger was temporarily forgotten, and lighting up the stars became their top priority. Mu Yaoyao's first reaction was to look at Foam Wu. Foam Wu had a hat over her head, and Mu Yaoyao couldn't tell how many stars were lit up on her headband. However, Mu Yaoyao wasn't worried about it at all, for she remembered that the last time she saw it, Foam Wu didn't have a single star. Mu Yaoyao was thrilled when she thought about their bet. She had bet her own life against Foam Wu's. Foam Wu would have to cut her own head off if she couldn't get first in the physical tryout, or Mu Yaoyao would if Foam Wu did. Mu Yaoyao touched her neck. Her head was going to stay there for a very long time. She was sure of it. Hence, she gave Foam Wu a taunting look. Foam Wu, you didn't forget our bet, did you? Our bet. Foam Wu darted a look at Mu Yaoyao. Before Mu Yaoyao could reply, there was a whooshing sound. Everyone was teleported out. Outside, the royal guards had taken control of the square and cleared some space. As soon as June Linyuan showed up, and before he could say a word, he was carried off on a stretcher by those people sent by the Empress Dowager. Weakened and half-conscious, June Linyuan didn't try to resist. Mu Yaoyao felt sorry when she saw June Linyuan carried away. She had wanted the Crown Prince to watch while she had Foam Wu killed. It seemed that that wasn't going to happen. However, Foam Wu would die nonetheless. At that thought, Mu Yaoyao stared at Foam Wu coldly. Don't tell me you've forgotten our bet. Foam Wu, do you think you can get away with it that easily? Many people gave Mu Yaoyao strange looks at those words. Chapter 941. Chapter 941, Impossible. Mu Yaoyao had her back to the screen and didn't see the rankings. Therefore, she took it for granted that Foam Wu hadn't made it into the top 200, for she still thought Foam Wu was that failure Wu that everyone knew. Foam Wu, many people were there to witness our bet. You can't deny it by saying that you don't remember it. Mu Yaoyao took a written copy of their agreement and smacked it on the wall. She shouted, "Everyone look. Here's my bet with Foam Wu." The font was rather large and people could see the words from a distance. Because of that, the looks on their faces became even stranger. Mu Yaoyao's attention was on Foam Wu the entire time, and she failed to notice the strange looks. She only sneered at Foam Wu.
See?
Remember now? This is our bet. Look. Mu Yaoyao snorted as she pointed at the piece of paper. You can have my head if you get first. But if you can't, I'll have yours. A hush fell over the crowd. People were practically gawking at Mu Yaoyao now. The live feed might have been cut off, but the rankings were still there. Why would Mu Yaoyao humiliate herself like this? Foam Wu was facing the screen, and she saw her own name high up on the screen right away. She was first. Feng Wu frowned a little. Do you really have to be so serious about the bet? Mu Yaoyao laughed. So, Feng Wu was going to recant her words. But she would never let Feng Wu do that. She wanted Feng Wu dead. Hence, Mu Yaoyao smirked. Stop trying to change the subject. It won't work. It's all written there on paper. We had so many witnesses. You can't pretend that the bet never happened. Feng Wu shook her head. Does it have to be that serious? Do you really want to put your life at stake? Yes. Watching you die will be the most satisfactory thing in my life. You're so dead today. Taking a dagger out of her chest pocket, Mu Yaoyao tossed it to Feng Wu. Are you going to do it, or do I have to do it myself? Feng Wu sighed. Mu Yaoyao. It really doesn't have to end like this. Mu Yaoyao snorted. It does, and it will. I'll never forgive you. What are you going to do? Feng Wu sighed. Are you sure you want to carry out this bet? Of course I do. There's no turning back. Mu Yaoyao sneered at her. Feng Wu shook her head and took off her hat, revealing the 7 stars on her headband. Mu Yaoyao was dumbfounded. Her eyes widened and she stared at Feng Wu, utterly speechless. She was so shocked that her eyes popped out.
No.
That's impossible.
How can it be?
No. Mu Yaoyao screamed. 7 stars were lit up on Feng Wu's headband. All 7 of them. What did that mean? It meant that Feng Wu had gotten full marks in the physical tryout. Aren't you a cripple? How could you get all 7 stars? You cheated. You must have. Chapter 942. Chapter 942. No. Never. Mu Yaoyao gritted her teeth. Feng Wu, I didn't know you could be bold enough to cheat in the physical tryout. She began to make up a charge to pin on Feng Wu. However, the crowd wasn't convinced. As a matter of fact, if they hadn't seen how Feng Wu reacted when she fell into the fissure, or how she had revealed her cultivation ability and killed the beast at the last moment, or how she had lit up all 7 stars by absorbing the beast's spiritual essence, they would have thought that Feng Wu had cheated, too. But Feng Wu had demonstrated her cultivation ability. Although they didn't know exactly what level she was at, judging from her swift reactions, she was definitely one of the best among all the candidates. Mu Yaoyao stared at Feng Wu.
No.
So, what if you lit up all 7 stars by cheating? There's still Yu Minji. He'll be first. After that, Mu Yaoyao turned to look at the big screen. And she froze. For she saw Feng Wu's name high up at the top of the list. Mu Yaoyao's knees buckled, her muscles went stiff, her heart pounded, and she couldn't breathe. She stared at the rankings in disbelief. No. That's impossible. There has to be a mistake. Mu Yaoyao wouldn't believe it. She had noticed before Feng Wu and Jun Linyuan fell into the gap that Feng Wu didn't have a single star. Not a single one. But it had only been more than an hour since they fell. How could Feng Wu light up all 7 in such a short period of time? How? And aren't you supposed to be a cripple? You don't have any spiritual essence. How can you light up the stars without it? Feng Wu, Mu Yaoyao gritted her teeth.
But
someone in the crowd interjected. Feng Wu doesn't have cultivation ability.
Says who?
Someone else chimed in. That's right. Who told you Feng Wu has no spiritual essence? Mu Yaoyao turned her head abruptly. What did you say? It's the truth. Everyone saw it. Feng Wu can cultivate, and she has spiritual essence. She's a much better cultivator than you are, Princess Mu. Mu Yaoyao yelled. That's not possible. Mu Yaoyao could ignore the words if they were from just one person. Or from 2 people. But what if it was from a large group of people? What if that group contained tens of thousands of people? Mu Yaoyao stood there, dazed, while everyone told her about what happened after Feng Wu fell into the gap. Everyone began to talk at the same time, telling Mu Yaoyao everything that had happened in detail. Mu Yaoyao was speechless. Feng Wu didn't interrupt, and only watched with a mild smile on her face. Shall we proceed with our bet now? Feng Wu said, waking Mu Yaoyao up from her trance-like state. Mu Yaoyao was speechless. She swayed, recalling what she had said just then. Feng Wu, many people were there to witness our bet. You can't deny it by saying that you don't remember it. Chapter 943. Chapter 943. I'm in. You can have my head if you get first. But if you can't, I'll have yours. Stop trying to change the subject. It won't work. It's all written there on paper. We had so many witnesses. You can't pretend that the bet never happened. Feng Wu had suggested that they forget about the bet, but Mu Yaoyao was the one who wouldn't let it drop. As it turned out, Feng Wu got first. Mu Yaoyao wanted to slap herself now. Holding Mu Yaoyao's dagger, Feng Wu smiled in an insouciant manner. Do you want to do it yourself, or shall I? What should she do now? What to do? Mu Yaoyao was furious. She still had a whole life ahead of her. She didn't want to die now. As soon as Feng Wu took a step forward with the dagger in her hand, Mu Yaoyao's head spun, and she fell to the ground with a thump. It sounded very painful. Yao Ying and the others rushed over, helped Mu Yaoyao to her feet, and said to Feng Wu, "The princess isn't feeling well. We'll come back to the bet after she wakes up. We're taking her home now." After that, Yao put Mu Yaoyao on his back and Yao Ying kept her steady. The siblings then fled the scene in a hurry.
People booed them.
Mu Yaoyao had sounded so righteous and unforgiving, but in the end, she had to pretend to pass out to get away. All she had to do was apologize to Feng Wu. Did Feng Wu really want to kill her? Obviously not. But all Mu Yaoyao could come up with was to run away by pretending to pass out. Many people shook their heads and were disappointed in Mu Yaoyao. As a result, even Mu Manor's reputation was severely affected. Everyone applauded Feng Wu and exalted her. They were excited for her. They only realized something serious after Feng Wu left. Didn't Feng Wu disrespect His Royal Highness? And she stole kisses from His Royal Highness. And I clapped for her. What's wrong with me? Many were overwhelmed with conflicting emotions. However, Feng Wu didn't feel any such conflict, and it was only natural that she wanted to go home now. She had been away for 7 days, and she had no idea how everyone was back home. Xiao Wu, Duan Chaoga rushed out to welcome her. Holding Feng Wu's hand, she said loudly, I'm in. Really? Feng Wu was happy for the girl. Chaoga said, I was injured toward the end, but I got enough points by then. I had 4 stars. Adding what I got in the written exam, I'm 100th on the list. 10,000 candidates took the Imperial College entrance exam every year. From the written exam, 1,000 candidates would be selected to proceed to the physical tryout, from which the top 100 candidates would be chosen. And those 100 students would be admitted into Imperial College that year. We can go to school and take classes together from now on. Chaoga was overjoyed. To be able to study alongside Feng Wu was the greatest motivation for her cultivation. Chaoga, an indifferent yet authoritative voice rang out a few steps away. It was Mr. Duan. Duan Chaoga's father. Chaoga nudged Feng Wu. Go home now. I'll come find you later. Feng Wu hesitated, for she knew that Chaoga didn't get along well with the rest of the Duan family. Chaoga patted Feng Wu's hand, leaned over, and grinned. My dad is all about doing what's best for himself. Now that I've made it into Imperial College, the last thing he'll do is treat me badly. Chapter 944. Chapter 944. The amazing Feng Wu won. That sounded reasonable. Feng Wu gave Chaoga a nod, then went back home. Mr. Duan wasn't alone. He was followed by 3 other people, his wife, Duan Chaoyue and Duan Chaoyin. Duan Chaoyin had been eliminated after the written exam. As for Duan Chaoyue, well, she did get into the physical tryout, but she didn't seem to have left an impression on anyone. Chaoga glanced at the screen. The system had consolidated everyone's scores from both exams, and the latest rankings were already out. One glance, and Chaoga knew that Duan Chaowa didn't make it. She laughed inwardly. These two sisters had been so pleased with themselves before. Well, it was Chaoga's turn to be pleased now. Chaoga smirked a little. Were you talking to me? Mr. Duan gave Chaoga a disgruntled look. You're my daughter. Who else am I supposed to be talking to? Chaoga smiled. So, I'm your daughter now? Wasn't it only the other day that you abandoned me to a burglar? Is that how you speak to your father? Mr. Duan feigned a displeased tone. Chaoga ignored him and turned to Mrs. Duan instead. Gosh, you look awful. Are you not feeling well? Right, my eldest sister didn't pass the written exam. How about your other daughter? Did she pass the physical tryout? Mrs. Duan blanched with anger. Quit acting already. Chaoga had looked at the rankings, and she hadn't exactly been subtle about it. She had done it right in front of them. She knew perfectly well that Chaoga didn't get in. Why did she even ask? Duan Chaoga, you. However, before Mrs. Duan could say another word, Mr. Duan cast a stern look at her. You can't talk to Chaoga like that. Shut up. Mrs. Duan stared at Mr. Duan in disbelief. Before all this, she used to be able to scold and punish Chaoga however she liked, and so could her two daughters, but now, she couldn't even say a few harsh words to the girl. Mrs. Duan wouldn't accept it. Chaoga snorted inwardly and went on asking, Did my sister get in? She's so knowledgeable, and she's a better cultivator than I am. She had access to 100 times more resources than I did. She can't have failed when I got in myself. If that's the case, what a waste of our family's resources. You. Hearing Chaoga's sarcastic tone, Mrs. Duan was so frustrated. Chaoga, let's go home, where we can talk more comfortably, Mr. Duan said to Chaoga in his nicest voice. She had gotten into Imperial College. Very few parents could enjoy that privilege. The Duan family was going to prosper. Chaoga shook her head. Nope, that home is the last place I want to be at the moment. I'll never forget how you people used to treat me. The only thing that home reminded Chaoga of was 5 years of painful memories. She would never forgive them for that. Where are you going? Mr. Duan's face darkened when Chaoga turned to leave. I'm going to Xiaowu, of course. Did you think I could get into Imperial College all by myself? Chaoga sneered at Mr. Duan, then promptly left the family of 4. Watching Chaoga leave, Duan Chaoyin snorted. Fengwu? She's not going to be around for long. Duan Chaowa frowned. I heard that Fengwu got her ability back and she used to be such a genius. Heh, Duan Chaoyin smirked. You were taking the exam and don't know what happened. So, what if she got her ability back? She's going to be in so much trouble. Chapter 945. Chapter 945. The Amazing Fengwu, 2. Trouble? What trouble? Duan Chaowa was confused. Duan Chaoyin gloated. Because she offended His Royal Highness. Well, not only His Royal Highness, but the entire royal family as well. What do you think will happen to the woman that just offended the Crown Prince, the golden boy of the Empire?
Why?
What did she do? Well, Duan Chaoyin then described what she had seen on the screen. What? Duan Chaowa covered her mouth in astonishment. Fengwu did that to His Royal Highness in front of so many people? Oh God. I would kill myself if I were her. You don't say. That was so humiliating. Oh God. His Royal Highness is such a neat freak. He's so going to kill Fengwu when he finds out. That was why Mu Yaoyao chose to run away. No one will go after her head after His Royal Highness kills Fengwu. Fengwu heard none of the gossip. She hurried back home as quickly as she could. Because she was worried about her family. Qiuling and the others wanted to come out and welcome Fengwu, but Fallen Star Yard was surrounded by guards and they couldn't get out. Qiuling was furious. She pointed at the guards. You have no right to keep us here. Move. However, the guards kept silent and only stared at them with solemn and intimidating looks on their faces. They didn't reply. Instead, they closed the door and locked it from the outside. Xiaoling was astonished. What's this about? Are we criminals now? However, no matter how loudly she yelled, the guards were silent and remained where they were. Xiaoling wouldn't have it. She climbed onto the wall, ready to jump out. However, before she could do that, she saw that the yard was surrounded by highly capable guards. They were everywhere. It would be impossible for her to get out. Lady Xuanji had been kept out of it, but it was impossible to not disturb her with all the noise. She blanched and took Xiaoling's hand. Xiaoling, is Xiaowu in danger? That was the question on everyone's mind. Feng Yanfeng would never do such a thing to them if something hadn't happened to Feng Wu. And the guards had announced that they were here at the command of the head of the clan. No one was to disobey. Quilling tried to calm Lady Xuanji down. It's okay. I'm sure it's nothing. Miss Wu is so smart. Nothing can happen to her. But Lady Xuanji wasn't convinced. Granny Zhao chimed in. Miss Wu isn't what they think she is. She's a proper cultivator now, and a very impressive one. Right?
Yes.
Miss Wu is already an outstanding cultivator among those in her generation. Uncle Chiu joined the conversation. I'm sure she's fine. Granny Zhao didn't want to upset Lady Xuanji, so she took her hand to comfort her. What we need to do now is wait here quietly for Miss Wu to come back. By then, Feng Wu had just stepped into the Feng Manor. The guards' eyes flickered when they spotted Feng Wu. One of them ran into the manor immediately. Feng Wu frowned. What was that about? In the Imperial Palace. Jun Linyuan was carried straight into Xinang Palace. The Empress Dowager burst into tears as soon as she set her eyes on Jun Linyuan. My baby Jun, how do you feel? Are you in pain? The Empress Dowager's hands trembled as she took one of Jun Linyuan's hands in her own. Chapter 946. Chapter 946, The Amazing Feng Wu 3. Master Chu had already been waiting, and he gave the Empress Dowager a wry smile when he saw how tightly she was holding the teenager. Your Majesty, His Royal Highness, needs to be treated now, so. Yes, of course. The Empress Dowager rose to her feet with Lady Northern Feng's help and moved aside. However, she kept her gaze on Jun Linyuan's face so that she wouldn't miss a thing. Jun Linyuan was still unconscious. Master Chu had thought about asking the old lady to leave the room, but eventually shook his head when he saw the look on her face. He then moved on to check the Crown Prince's pulse. The look on his face was grave at first, but gradually it relaxed. The Empress Dowager had kept her eyes on Master Chu from the moment he started studying Jun Linyuan's pulse. She needed to see the look on the doctor's face. Master Chu drew back his hand after 5 minutes and let out a breath of relief. How is the Crown Prince?
Speak.
The Empress Dowager prompted. Wiping away the sweat that had covered his forehead, Master Chu nodded. His Royal Highness didn't fight that frosty night beast just once, but 3 times. 3? Emperor Wu had filled his mother in on how ferocious that beast was, and the old lady was astonished. Is the Crown Prince badly hurt? Master Chu was treating a member of the royal family, and he had to make it sound very serious even if it wasn't, just in case he couldn't cure the patient in the end. He said it was life-threatening at some point, but luckily someone already treated the Crown Prince and cleared out some of the poison. I think His Royal Highness is safe for now. So, you're saying that Feng Wu saved the Crown Prince? Lady Northern Feng chimed in at the right moment as she spoke up for Feng Wu. Master Chu nodded. That's right. If Miss Feng Wu hadn't cleared out the toxin in his system, His Royal Highness would probably have left us by now. More importantly, Miss Feng is an exceptional doctor. I don't think I'm her match. Lady Northern Feng stole a glance at the Empress Dowager.
See?
The Crown Prince would be dead if it wasn't for little Feng Wu. Little Feng Wu saved the day. But the old lady acted as if she didn't hear it, and she asked without looking at Master Chu, So, you're telling me that the Crown Prince is all right now? Master Chu left some room for unexpected developments, and he chose his words carefully. He should be if everything goes as planned. Good, good. Patting her chest, the Empress Dowager let out a breath of relief. Actually, after some hesitation, Master Chu suggested, Miss Feng Wu and His Royal Highness went through this together, and she treated him first. So, I think our safest choice is to invite her here to treat His Royal Highness. However, the Empress Dowager turned him down right away. Master Chu, you're our safest choice. That girl was just a temporary fix. Now that you're here, why do we need her? She was furious whenever she recalled how roughly Feng Wu had handled Jun Linyuan, and the fact that she had chosen to dig out the heart of Frost Essence and absorb the spiritual essence instead of taking care of her baby Jun. The old lady wanted to slap Feng Wu. Master Chu shook his head with a wry smile. He had made the suggestion because he was worried that something would go wrong now that he was Jun Linyuan's doctor. He realized that Feng Wu was unbelievably good with acupuncture after studying only half of the acupoints that Feng Wu had stuck her needles into. That girl was unparalleled in her medical skills. Chapter 947. Chapter 947. The Amazing Feng Wu 4. The Empress Dowager snorted. I don't want to hear that name ever again. And she's not to see the Crown Prince or set foot in the Imperial Palace. I'll have her killed if she doesn't obey. The Empress Dowager glared at Lady Northern Feng. You, go tell Feng Wu that.
Now.
Lady Northern Feng was conflicted. The Empress Dowager had been a capricious old lady for years, but she hadn't always been this awful. What did Xiao Wu do? She had saved the Crown Prince twice, and she only took that heart and spiritual essence in between treating him. But Jun Linyuan hadn't needed her at the time, and her actions hadn't harmed the Crown Prince. Why couldn't the Empress Dowager be reasonable? Lady Northern Feng wanted to speak up for little Feng Wu, but she had tried several times, and the Empress Dowager wasn't buying any of it. If she tried to explain to the old lady now, she would be hated alongside Feng Wu. At that thought, Lady Northern Feng stared at Emperor Wu helplessly. She believed that Emperor Wu was reasonable. She could talk to him. Emperor Wu shrugged at Lady Northern Feng. He understood what Feng Wu had done, but she had disrespected the Crown Prince and the royal family. Lady Northern Feng was speechless. So, her Xiao Wu was hated even after saving the Crown Prince twice, just because she had been a little rough? Feng Wu couldn't be any more innocent. Slowly, Lady Northern Feng rose to her feet and began to walk toward the door. How she hoped that the Empress Dowager would stop her. But the old lady didn't even look at her. She kept her gaze on Jun Linyuan the entire time. Lady Northern Feng turned and noticed that Jun Linyuan's eyelashes were quivering. Wait, was the Crown Prince awake? Just then. Wretch. He began to convulse and foam at the mouth. The Empress Dowager was almost scared to death. What's happening? What's wrong with the Crown Prince?
Help him.
The Empress Dowager panicked, and she pushed Master Chu toward the bed. Master Chu's eyes widened. What was going on? The Crown Prince's pulse had been weak, but steady and smooth. Where did this violent reaction come from? Soon, Jun Linyuan's face was tinged with a gray hue. The poison had activated. Hadn't the remaining poison been suppressed? Master Chu had been planning to gradually extract the toxin from Jun Linyuan's system a little at a time, but Master Chu sat down, took a deep breath, and calmed down before he checked Jun Linyuan's pulse again. What he found baffled him. The Empress Dowager stared at Master Chu, so nervous that she thought her heart was going to jump out of her throat. What? How's the Crown Prince now? She asked hastily. Master Chu couldn't understand it. This type of reaction shouldn't be happening in the first place.
Why?
Everything had been fine. Unless the Crown Prince had activated the toxin himself. But why would the Crown Prince do that? It wasn't possible. Master Chu ruled out the possibility. However, he couldn't think of another one. Master Chu racked his brain, but still couldn't figure it out. Master Chu shook his head. It's an unexpected reaction from the toxin. The most important thing now is to suppress it. So suppress it. Do it now. The Empress Dowager was anxious. Chapter 948. Chapter 948. The Amazing Feng Wu, 5. Master Chu nodded, then took out some silver needles to treat Jun Linyuan. However, Jun Linyuan's muscles had stiffened under the effect of the toxin, and the needles wouldn't go in. Master Chu was speechless. He had to try a different method and switch to the green light. It was a skill only mastered by supreme-level medicine refiners. However, to everyone's surprise, the pale green light only floated over the Crown Prince and wouldn't sink into his body. The Empress Dowager almost fainted. Why is this happening?
Why?
Didn't Feng Wu use the green light to treat him before? Why can hers work, but not yours?
Why?
She spoke fast and loudly in an accusing tone. Master Chu was equally baffled. He had no idea why this was happening. The only reason he could think of was that the Crown Prince was actively refusing his treatment. But that wasn't possible. Master Chu was utterly dumbfounded. He had never experienced something this unusual in all his years working as a doctor. What now? Is the Crown Prince going to die? The Empress Dowager was almost in tears. Master Chu said, "His Royal Highness is suffering from a most unusual injury, and I only understand half of it. I'm afraid that I can't figure out the other half." The Empress Dowager bellowed, "If you can't do it, who else can?" The same name came to everyone's mind. Feng Wu. Emperor Wu, the Empress Dowager, and Lady Northern Feng, who hadn't left yet, cried out in unison. Master Chu nodded. "I'm afraid Miss Feng Wu is our only hope. Otherwise," he went on despite the Empress Dowager's glare, "otherwise, we may lose His Royal Highness forever." The Empress Dowager shuddered. "But you told me the Crown Prince was all right." Master Chu gave her a wry smile. "This is unexpected." The old lady glared at him. "What are we waiting for, then? Summon Feng Wu to court. Send her an imperial edict." "No, that'll take too long. My verbal command will do." She nudged Lady Northern Feng as she spoke. Lady Northern Feng was bewildered.
Huh?
The Empress Dowager cast a stern look at her. "Don't just stand there. Go to the Feng Manor and bring Feng Wu here. Quickly. Move." Lady Northern Feng sighed inwardly. Just minutes ago, the old lady had announced that Feng Wu was never to set foot in the imperial palace, nor meet the Crown Prince again. Now that the boy's life was in danger, the old lady had forgotten everything she had said. Although Lady Northern Feng was glad how things had turned out. The Empress Dowager had practically slapped herself in the face. "Sure, I'll go get Feng Wu now." Lady Northern Feng left happily. Meanwhile, Feng Wu had no idea what was happening in court, for she was standing right outside her fallen star yard. And the entrance was blocked by a row of guards. Not only was the entrance blocked, guards were also lined up under the walls. All of Fallen Star Yard was surrounded, and no one was allowed to come out. Feng Wu's face darkened. She knew what was going on. People were messing with her family, the thing she valued the most. "Move." Feng Wu stared at the guards. However, determined to carry out Feng Yanfeng's order, the guards only held their ground and looked coldly at Feng Wu. Chapter 949. Chapter 949. The Amazing Feng Wu, 6. I said move. Feng Wu's eyes glinted like cold blades. But the guards still wouldn't move. They acted as if they didn't hear Feng Wu at all. Feng Wu smirked. "I won't repeat myself again." Her actions would speak for her. Thud. Feng Wu raised her foot. Thump. She kicked the guard in front of her, and he hit the door behind him. The loud noise caught the attention of the people inside. Lady Xuanji had always been as skittish as a bunny, and she jumped at the loud bang. What happened? What happened? Qiuling rushed out of her room to find Feng Wu standing at the entrance to the yard. And Qiuling would never forget that scene. The arrogant guards were all rolling around and moaning on the ground. And there were more of them than Qiuling expected. It seemed that they included those who had been standing along the walls. Qiuling savored the sight and was thrilled to see Feng Wu again. "Miss Wu, you're back." Sob. She rushed to Feng Wu's side, wrapped her arms around the latter, and burst into tears. Feng Wu asked, "Where's my mum? Are you all right?" The guards were still moaning, but it was only background noise to Qiuling. She explained to Feng Wu as she led her to the bedroom, "Your mother is fine. She's just a little shaken by everything that's happened, and she's resting inside. I'm so glad that you got back in time. Otherwise, what happened?" Feng Wu asked Qiuling in bewilderment. Qiuling stared back at her with an equally puzzled look. "Miss, you don't know what happened." Feng Wu said, "I don't. What is this all about?" Qiuling scratched her head. "We have no idea. Your uncle had Fallen Star Yard locked down an hour ago, and none of us were allowed to leave." Just then, "Feng Wu, how dare you come back?" A cold voice rang out behind her. Feng Wu knew it was Feng Lu even before she turned her head. And Feng Lu wasn't alone. Lady Wang, Feng Sang, and Feng Yiran were with her. Even two of the elders who had gone into seclusion were here. This had to be serious. Feng Wu frowned at Feng Yanfeng, who led the group of people. What baffled Feng Wu was that she had gotten first in the exam. In that case, her uncle, who was all about his own personal gain, should be welcoming her warmly now. However, his tone sounded rather accusing. Feng Wu couldn't care less about his manner, but scaring her mother was unforgivable. On guard, Feng Wu narrowed her eyes. Feng Yanfeng stared at Feng Wu with a ferocious look on his face. He looked like he wanted to kill her now. Feng Lu snorted. "Feng Wu, how dare you come back? The entire empire knows what you did." Feng Wu's eyes flickered. "What I did?" Crossing her arms, Feng Lu sneered. "Don't tell me you don't know what this is about." Feng Wu said, "I don't. Stop pretending already. You took advantage of His Royal Highness when he was unconscious from the poison. You did it at the bottom of that cliff in the snowfield."
What do you have to say about that?
Feng Lu asked. Feng Wu's stomach lurched. Under the cliff in the snowfield?
How did they know about that?
Wait. Chapter 950. Chapter 950. You kissed him. 1. Feng Wu looked indifferently at the group of people in the yard. Her uncle, her aunt, her cousins, and the elders of her clan. These people were all glaring at her as if she were a criminal. A criminal? Feng Wu smirked. If they had seen it on the screen, they should have learned that she had recovered her ability. If that was the case, why were they still treating her like this? "So, why did you bring an army here to my courtyard?" Feng Wu asked with a half-smile. Feng Lu smirked. "Feng Wu, you're not going to talk yourself out of this. We all saw what you did at the bottom of the cliff." Feng Wu gave Feng Lu a taunting smile. "Really? You mean you saw that I got my cultivation ability back?" Feng Lu sneered. "So, what if you have? You're doomed. You've brought shame to this family." Feng Wu was bewildered. "Why is that? I saved the crown prince 3 times. After what I did, I think my mom is going to get a higher rank now." Lady Wang smirked. "Feng Wu, you can stop with your acting now. We all saw what you did to His Royal Highness. With our own eyes. You shameless girl. You've disgraced the entire clan." Feng Wu was even more bewildered, and there was anger in her voice. "I've disgraced the clan? What on earth did I do?" Feng Lu scoffed at her. "Feng Wu, just admit it. I told you, we all saw it. You molested His Royal Highness. You kissed him while he was unconscious." Feng Lu's eyes were bloodshot red with jealousy. Many girls wanted to choke Feng Wu to death for what she did, and wanted to be in her place instead. Feng Wu finally saw the light. Are you referring to the artificial respiration I performed on His Royal Highness? Artificial respiration? What a high-sounding excuse. You're so cunning. Feng Lu wouldn't believe it, nor would the others. Of course, Feng Wu's own family was on her side, no matter what. Feng Wu was baffled. His Royal Highness woke up after the artificial respiration. I treated him with acupuncture after that.
Did none of these people see that?
What acupuncture?
We saw no such thing.
You molested His Royal Highness. That we do know. Feng Lu snorted. Given how smart Feng Wu was, she was able to put the pieces together from Feng Lu's accusation. Someone controlling the screen must have switched it off when they saw the artificial respiration, thinking that she was doing something inappropriate. That was why they didn't know what happened afterward. But wasn't Grand Secretary Feng in charge of that? How could he let such a thing happen? Feng Wu was puzzled. Feng Wu, you've run out of excuses. Feng Yanfeng finally spoke in a righteous tone. Feng Wu smiled. You missed the important part, but someone out there will prove my innocence. I'm not going to admit to something that I didn't do. Admit it or not, Feng Yanfeng's face was as stern as it had been 5 years ago. You're going to take responsibility for your own actions. I won't let you destroy this clan's reputation. Chapter 951. Chapter 951. You kissed him. 2. Feng Wu narrowed her eyes. What was Feng Yanfeng trying to do? Go. With a wave of his hand, some people standing behind Feng Yanfeng jumped out and surrounded Feng Wu. They were secret guards trained by the Feng clan and were only sent out in the direst of situations. Uncle, what is this? Feng Wu's face darkened. You molested the crown prince. You're going to take responsibility for that, Feng Yanfeng said. I'm going to take you into custody, then hand you over to the royal family. That's it. That's it. Feng Wu couldn't believe what she was hearing. After saving Jun Linyuan 3 times, and with her secret now exposed, this was what she got from her own clan. Feng Wu smirked. What if I say no? Feng Yanfeng said, then I'm afraid your family will suffer. Feng Wu said, Uncle, I see that you're done playing nice. Feng Yanfeng feigned a regretful tone. Xiao Wu, the clan can't save you from what you've done this time. Your only option now is to beg for the royal family's forgiveness. And that wasn't going to happen. Feng Yanfeng and the others all knew how much the Empress Dowager loved the crown prince. They couldn't begin to imagine how furious the old lady had to be now. Feng Wu would never make it out alive. Take her down. Feng Yanfeng gave the order. The uniformed guards charged at Feng Wu like beasts freed from their cages. 10 of them. They were all spiritual grandmasters, and Feng Yanfeng had gone through a lot of trouble to train these people so that they could protect him. They had thought that they could take Feng Wu down in no time. To their surprise, Feng Wu reacted much faster than they expected.
Thump, thump,
Thump. With non-stop kicks, she sent all 10 people flying. That capability. Everyone watched with open mouths, especially Feng Yanfeng, who stared at Feng Wu in disbelief. You. His fingers trembled with anger, but he was too shocked to utter a word. He had expected Feng Wu to be a level 1 spiritual grandmaster at most, and these 10 people would be more than enough to take Feng Wu down. As it turned out, Feng Wu was a level 3 spiritual grandmaster at the very least. You 20, take her down. Feng Yanfeng had 30 guards with him in total, and he gave the order to the remaining 20. Yes. The uniformed guards charged at Feng Wu again with impassive looks on their faces. They moved at a tremendous speed. Xiao Wu. Qiuling and the others cried out and wanted to rush over to help Feng Wu, but she shook her head, reassuring them that she alone would be enough. Feng Wu was seething with anger as she watched the guards approach. She had gotten her ability back since Northern Border City, but she had to keep it a secret, even when everyone was laughing at her. Now, she had been exposed. If that was the case, so be it. She would show them what she had. With a smirk, Feng Wu struck out. She kicked the first guard that reached her, grabbed the second, and threw him into the third, then punched the fourth in the face. Chapter 952. Chapter 952. You kissed him. 3. Feng Wu's movements reminded one of floating clouds and flowing water. She was nimble and her timing was perfect. She was invincible. 1, 2, 3. The others watched as the guards were tossed away one after another. And she threw them very far. They flew over the wall and out of the Feng manor. Feng Lu, Feng Sang, Feng Iran, Lady Wang, and Feng Yanfeng watched in astonishment. That was impossible. It couldn't be. How could this happen? They hadn't detected any spiritual essence on the girl and had thought her a useless cripple. As it turned out, she was a level 4 spiritual grandmaster at the very least. How could she? Feng Lu was at a loss for words. The clan had provided her with so many resources so that she could qualify to take the entrance exam. The elders had even given her special training sessions. With all that effort, she barely reached level 9 of the spiritual master stage, which was the minimum cultivation level required to enter the exam. But Feng Wu was a level 4 spiritual grandmaster already. Feng Sang's eyes popped out. That Feng Wu, that genius Feng Wu who used to outshine everyone. Was she back now? Feng Yuan clenched his fists and frowned. If Feng Wu had recovered, would he have to give her back the title of clan heir? Lady Wang gritted her teeth. If Feng Wu learned the truth about what happened 5 years ago. Lady Wang, Feng Sang, Feng Yuan, and Feng Lu exchanged looks, and they all saw hatred and determination in each other's eyes. Feng Wu had to die today. No matter what a genius she was, she couldn't walk out of here alive.
But
luck wasn't on their side. After kicking all 10 guards away in the first round, Feng Wu did it again and kicked all 20 guards into the air. Feng Yanfeng glared at Feng Wu. Feng Wu only clapped the non-existent dust off her hands and straightened her clothes, which hadn't been messy in the first place. She was relaxed, poised, and didn't look like a soon-to-be prisoner at all. She then glanced at Feng Yanfeng. Feng Yanfeng said in a stern voice, "Are you resisting arrest now?" Feng Wu replied, "Resisting arrest? Do you have a warrant for my arrest? Am I wanted by the Empire?" Feng Yanfeng checked the position of the sun and realized that he was running out of time. He was right. His personal valet rushed into the yard in a hurry. Master, we have a visitor from the Imperial Palace." Many people blanched, especially Feng Yanfeng. He had a murderous look in his eyes now. He believed that he wouldn't be punished too severely if he preemptively handed Feng Wu over to the royal family as a sign of penance. But if the imperial edict came first, he felt that the entire Feng clan would be incriminated, and his job at the Ministry of Official Personnel would also be at risk. Feng Yanfeng shot the 2 elders a warning glance. Elders 3 and 5 sided with Feng Yanfeng, which was why they had been invited here today. But they hesitated now. They were astonished by the ability Feng Wu had demonstrated. She had to be a genius to pull off what she had done just then. The Feng clan finally had a genius, not to mention that she was one reborn. Were they going to destroy her again? Feng Yanfeng turned his head to see the wavering looks on the 2 old men's faces. Chapter 953. Chapter 953. You kissed him. 4. Elders 3 and 5. Take Feng Wu down.
now.
Feng Yanfeng growled, then said under his breath, "I'm still the head of this clan." The 2 elders stiffened. Indeed, Feng Yanfeng was still the head of the Feng clan. Both old men had gotten on Feng Yanfeng's pirate ship so that they could have ample resources at their disposal. They would be doomed if they wanted to jump ship now. The 2 men exchanged looks and saw determination in each other's eyes. The next second, they charged forward at a frightening speed. Feng Wu narrowed her eyes.
Thump, thump.
Thump. The 2 elders gave Feng Wu no time to react, and they struck out with deadly blows right away. It had only been a few months since Feng Wu recovered her ability, and no matter how much of a genius she was, she couldn't fight both elders at the same time. Both old men had cultivation levels way above the spiritual grandmaster stage. They were astonished as soon as they began to exchange blows with Feng Wu. They had thought that the girl was a level 4 spiritual grandmaster, but as soon as the fight started, they realized that Feng Wu was more than that. She was a level 5 at least. Their evaluation of Feng Wu rose. She was without doubt a genius. But they had to do this for their own survival. Elder 3 gritted his teeth, and when he was close enough, he whispered to Feng Wu, "Run." Feng Wu glanced at Elder 3. It seemed that he wasn't completely irredeemable. However, why should she run? She narrowed her eyes and exerted more power. Feng Yanfeng grew impatient as the fight dragged on. He was displeased. How could this be? Feng Wu was too petty a cultivator to be able to withstand the combined assault of 2 elders. The royal family could arrive at any moment. Feng Yanfeng had to finish this now. He leapt up and charged at Feng Wu. He moved as fast as a streak of lightning. Thud! Feng Yanfeng struck Feng Wu from behind when she wasn't looking. At the same time, Lady Wang had left the courtyard a while ago to stall the messenger from the imperial palace, at least until they could get Feng Wu tied up. They had to get their gesture right. However, Lady Wang rushed out, only to see Lady Northern Feng marching into the manor. Lady Northern Feng. Lady Wang was surprised. Lady Northern Feng was Feng Wu's godmother, but she was here with a team of eunuchs. Were they here for Feng Wu? Lady Wang guffawed inwardly. Feng Wu, you really thought too highly of yourself. It seems that all your sucking up to Lady Northern Feng was for nothing. She's here to arrest you herself. Your ladyship, Lady Wang bowed to Lady Northern Feng. But Lady Northern Feng only asked hastily, "Where's Feng Wu?" She really was here for that girl. Lady Wang was screaming with laughter inwardly, but she kept her face straight. Your ladyship, are you here to take Feng Wu to court? Lady Northern Feng glanced at her. You know that. Ha 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 ha. Lady Wang was over the moon, but she still said in a calm voice, "We knew this would happen. It's so unfortunate for the Feng clan that we have such an abominable daughter. But please be reassured, we will." An abominable daughter? Lady Northern Feng's face darkened. Thinking that Lady Northern Feng was testing her, Lady Wang made a fist and said in an indignant voice. Chapter 954. Chapter 954. The Furious Beautiful Lady 1. Feng Wu is a degenerate, and she's no longer a member of this clan. Your ladyship, I can give you my word here. Feng Wu has been banished from the Feng clan. What she did has nothing to do with us. Lady Northern Feng stared at Lady Wang in disbelief. Feng Wu has been banished from your clan? Lady Wang nodded and said earnestly, "That's right. My husband is taking Feng Wu into custody as we speak. He'll hand her over to the royal family so that she can receive the proper punishment she deserves." However, Lady Northern Feng shoved Lady Wang to the side before the latter could finish her sentence. Lady Wang was knocked off her feet, and she fell into the rose bushes. The rose plants were full of thorns, and Lady Wang cried out in pain. But Lady Northern Feng forgot all about that woman as she sprinted off. Fallen Star Yard. Thud. Feng Yanfeng struck Feng Wu on the shoulder. Instantly, Feng Wu couldn't feel her right shoulder anymore, and she almost cried out in pain. Before she realized it, Feng Yanfeng had dragged her to his side, and he threw her to the ground. Thump. Xiao Wu. Qiuling and the others rushed out to help Feng Wu, the beautiful lady running at the front. Lady Xuanji's world revolved around 2 people and a half. Herself, Feng Wu, and Feng Xiaoqi, who was the half. Seeing Feng Wu fall to the ground in agony, the beautiful lady almost passed out. The strength she exerted was disproportionate to her frail frame. Shielding Feng Wu with her own body like a mother hen, she glared at Feng Yanfeng over her shoulder. The look made Feng Yanfeng's stomach lurch. The woman had always looked so fragile, as if she could be blown away by the wind. But now, that look in her eyes was colder than the sharpest blade, and she reminded him of an ice queen. But Feng Yanfeng came back to himself almost immediately. Lady Xuanji was even more harmless than a plant. There was no way she could be that fierce.
He was seeing things.
Feng Yanfeng patted Lady Xuanji on the shoulder, fearing that he might hurt the beauty if he put too much force into it. He said softly, "It was all Feng Wu's fault. We won't blame you. You'll be safe." After that, Feng Yanfeng tried to pick Lady Xuanji up. However, Feng Yanfeng would never forget what happened next. Lady Xuanji, whom he thought was as harmless as a bunny, suddenly stared at him with bloodshot eyes. She went berserk. She radiated spiritual essence, and formidable energy gushed out of her in waves. Clutching the hand which Feng Yanfeng had on her shoulder, she yanked. Thump! Feng Yanfeng was thrown over her shoulder, and he smashed onto the ground. Everyone was dumbfounded. Holy shit! Was this the Lady Xuanji, who was in tears all the time, and who couldn't even lift a small rock off the ground? Feng Wu's eyes widened. What was going on? Feng Yanfeng was the most astonished of them all. He had never thought that one day he would be thrown over the shoulder of such a fragile-looking woman. You! Feng Yanfeng scrambled to his feet and pointed at Lady Xuanji, but he only had enough time to utter one word. Smack! Lady Xuanji didn't give him a chance to speak. She began to throw punches at him right away.
Thump! 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 Eh.
Chapter 955. Chapter 955, The Furious Beautiful Lady, 2. Feng Yanfeng was a pretty decent cultivator. After all, he was the head of the clan. In her infuriated state, however, Lady Xuanji was attacking to kill. And she meant it. Every stance she used was a killing move. Moreover, her moves seemed confused and didn't follow a pattern, as if she couldn't remember them clearly. Even so, Feng Yanfeng couldn't gain the upper hand, and was losing ground. You shouldn't have hit Xiao Wu. I won't allow it. You can't. The beautiful lady lashed out at Feng Yanfeng, and threw whatever punches came to mind at him. Somehow, her stances were so effective that there was no chance for Feng Yanfeng to fight back. Smack! Feng Yanfeng was slapped. Thud! Feng Yanfeng was punched in the chest. Smack! Feng Yanfeng was kicked in the stomach. What was more, the lady grabbed Feng Yanfeng by his hair and began to smash his head against the ground repeatedly. Yes, she was throwing him around, as if she was threshing grain. With her floaty white dress, her tiny frame, and her stunning face, she was every bit an ethereal beauty. But that beauty was holding a man by his hair and pounding his head into the ground. Thump, thump, thump. It looked very painful. Feng Wu. Feng Xiaoqi. Qiuling. Feng Lu. Feng Iran. Everyone else. And the poor head of the clan. He looked dumbfounded, and his head had gone blank. He couldn't understand any of this. Fearing that Feng Wu was going to get hurt, Lady Northern Feng rushed to Fallen Star Yard as quickly as she could. However, when she got there, she only saw all the guards groaning on the ground, as well as the head of the Feng clan, who was getting his ass kicked. Lady Northern Feng almost choked on her own spit. Who was capable of doing that? However, she nearly shrieked when she saw the person's face. Lady Xuanji, the feeble lady that always looked weak enough to be crushed under the weight of her own clothes. Thinking that she was seeing things, Lady Northern Feng rubbed her eyes, but nothing changed. As Lady Xuanji hammered Feng Yanfeng's head against the ground, she bellowed, "This is what you get for hitting my Xiao Wu. Remember this." Lady Northern Feng was speechless. Someone please give her back her old world. After her maids finally pulled her out of the rose bushes, Lady Wang ran after Lady Northern Feng toward Fallen Star Yard, ignoring all the thorns that the fall had left her with. However, Her pupils contracted when she saw what was happening. Pointing in the beautiful lady's direction with a shaking finger, she was too shocked to utter a word. She was as frightened as she was astonished. Lady Wang almost passed out. Her husband was the head of the clan and one of the top cultivators among the clansmen, yet he was being brutally beaten, not to mention that the person doing it was that delicate Lady Xuanji. Lady Wang almost had a heart attack. Feng Yanfeng screamed in pain, but he finally came back to himself and yelled at the two elders. "Don't just stand there. Do something." "What?" "Right." The two elders had been equally shocked and dazed, and at Feng Yanfeng's bellow, finally realized that they had to do something. Chapter 956. Chapter 956. The Furious Beautiful Lady 3. The head of their clan was getting beaten up in front of Lady Northern Feng. That was bad news. The two elders rushed over to help Feng Yanfeng. They didn't actually want to do anything to Lady Xuanji, but only tried to extricate Feng Yanfeng. However, at that moment, Lady Xuanji wasn't thinking straight. She was stressed and would attack any opponent that approached her. Hence, when the two elders moved, Lady Xuanji tossed Feng Yanfeng to the ground and stomped on his stomach. "Arg!" Feng Yanfeng screeched and curled up like a boiled shrimp. Finding the man repulsive and useless, Lady Xuanji kicked him to the side. She moved on to fight the two elders. The poor elders. They were capable cultivators, but none of their stances seemed to work today. "How dare you hit Xiao Wu?
Die.
I'm gonna kill you all." The lady was fierce. She gave off the feeling that she would crush anything that stood in her way. The two elders weren't her match. After exchanging a few blows, they were kicked to the ground and passed out after spitting out mouthfuls of blood. Anyone else? The lady scanned the courtyard with a cold, regal look on her face. She reminded one of the sharpest blades. Everyone shivered under her gaze, especially those who sided with Feng Yanfeng and Lady Wang. They couldn't even meet Lady Xuanji's gaze and stumbled back involuntarily. Lady Xuanji glanced at Lady Wang. Instantly, Lady Wang stiffened, as if she was covered in ice and frozen to the bone. She had never experienced such fear before. "Mother." After scanning the crowd, Lady Xuanji fainted. Although it sounded like it had been a long time, everything actually happened very fast, starting from the moment the beautiful lady exploded to her beating up Feng Yanfeng and the elders. Feng Wu finally came back to herself. She jumped to her feet, rushed over, and held her mother in her arms. She put a finger under her mother's nose. Good, she was breathing normally. And she was relieved when she checked her mother's pulse. The lady was only exhausted after using so much spiritual essence. She would be right as rain after some sleep. Looking at the lady's exquisite face, Feng Wu smiled wryly. She had never imagined that there was such strength in the lady's body, let alone the fact that she could be such a formidable fighter. The beautiful lady had to have quite the story. Feng Wu wondered what it was. However, despite how capable the lady was, both her cultivation ability and her intelligence had been sealed away. That just demonstrated how frightening her enemies were. Feng Wu clenched her fists. She had to work harder and become the strongest cultivator. Only then would she be able to protect everyone she loved. Instead of being this helpless and defenseless person when people tried to push her around. Lady Northern Feng recovered from the shock as well, and she remembered why she was here in the first place. "Xiao Wu." Feng Wu silenced her with a wave of her hand as soon as Lady Northern Feng began to speak. For the beautiful lady slowly opened her eyes at that moment. She burst into tears as soon as she saw Feng Wu. Holding Feng Wu's face and caressing her shoulders with her fair hands, the lady said between broken sobs, "My poor Xiao Wu. Are you in pain? I was so worried." Feng Wu was lost for words. Chapter 957. Chapter 957. The Truth. Lady Northern Foam was speechless. The rest of the crowd was just as silent. Where was that Ice Queen? Why did the lady wake up to become this poor bunny again? Do you remember what happened? Foam Wu asked tentatively. The lady nodded.
Yes.
Your uncle was hitting you. He's a bad man. Xiao Wu, are you hurt? Let me have a look. Foam Wu asked, what about what happened next? Can you remember that? The lady looked up at Foam Wu with teary eyes. Next? What next? Foam Wu scratched her head and had to accept reality. That Ice Queen was gone, and the fragile, beautiful lady was back. With Foam Wu's help, the beautiful lady rose to her feet. She then saw all the people lying on the ground, especially Foam Yenfeng and the two elders, who were covered in blood and bruises. She looked so surprised when she turned to Foam Wu. Xiao Wu, what happened to them? Foam Wu was lost for words. Mom, you beat them up. The lady finally smiled at Foam Wu's words. You're such a cute kid. That's a really good joke. Everyone stared at Lady Xuanji in disbelief. Especially Lady Northern Foam, who asked in astonishment, You really don't remember what you did just then? What did I do? The beautiful lady asked innocently. Foam Wu turned around to see Lady Northern Foam and the eunuchs behind her. They had obviously come from the Imperial Palace. Foam Wu was puzzled. But why? Lady Northern Foam finally remembered why she was here. She smacked her own forehead and said, Xiao Wu, quickly, you need to come to court with me. Foam Yenfeng and the others were inwardly elated. Foam Lu couldn't hide the smirk on her face. Finally, the royal family was going to have Foam Wu arrested. Foam Wu, you're done. Foam Wu asked in bewilderment. To court. Lady Northern Foam took Foam Wu's hand and said hastily, Xiao Wu, didn't you save the crown prince at the bottom of that cliff? Well, the toxin reactivated after His Royal Highness was taken back to the palace, and Master Chu says you're our only hope. So, come with me now. Foam Yenfeng and his family were flabbergasted. They were too shocked to speak. What? Lady Northern Foam wasn't here to arrest Foam Wu, but to take her to His Royal Highness to treat him. Foam Lu couldn't hold it in anymore and began to complain to Lady Northern Foam. Your ladyship, Foam Wu is disgusting. She molested His Royal Highness and offended the royal family. However, Lady Northern Foam cut her off. Are you talking about what happened in Proud Snowfield at the bottom of the cliff? Foam Lu said, Well, yes, did I say something wrong? Lady Northern Foam threw a dirty look at Foam Lu. I don't know what you saw, but Foam Wu was saving His Royal Highness's life. You're the one with disgusting ideas. I can't believe how you, a girl at such a young age, can come up with such a vile notion. Who taught you to be so malicious? No decent man will want you as their wife. Foam Lu. Lady Northern Foam wouldn't lie about this, for she was here on behalf of the royal family. Chapter 958. Chapter 958. Panicked. Foam Yenfeng and his family exchanged looks. Could it be true? Foam Wu had actually saved His Royal Highness, not molested him. Foam Yenfeng panicked. Oh no! He had believed that Foam Wu had done unthinkable things to His Royal Highness, which would incriminate the Foam clan later. That was why he had taken action first, so that he could hand her over to the royal family before the entire clan went down with her. But what Lady Northern Foam said meant. Foam Wu hadn't been molesting His Royal Highness, but saving him? Moreover, according to Master Chu, Foam Wu was the only one that could help His Royal Highness. Oh, God. Foam Yenfeng wanted to slap himself. What had he done? Concerned about Jun Linyuan's condition, Lady Northern Foam held Foam Wu's hand. Xiao Wu, let's go. His Royal Highness needs you now. Foam Wu was confused. But he shouldn't. When they had been at the bottom of that cliff, she had flushed out most of the toxin from Jun Linyuan's system. If everything went as planned, he should make a full recovery after some rest. The toxin shouldn't reactivate. but it had.
Why?
Lady Northern Feng tugged at Feng Wu. Enough with the questions. You'll know everything after you see His Royal Highness. Come with me. Hence, Feng Wu went to the Imperial Palace with Lady Northern Feng. Sinang Palace. Master Chu was busy treating Jun Linyuan, while the Empress Dowager walked back and forth in the room. The air smelled of anxiety. Go have a look. Where are they now? She would send people out every minute or so, but Lady Northern Feng and Feng Wu still hadn't arrived. What's going on? What's taking her so long? She should have been here a long time ago, even if she only had one leg. The Empress Dowager didn't like Feng Wu to begin with. Now that the girl had yet to arrive, the old lady was even more irritated. Empress Dogo had been keeping the old lady company the whole time, and she feigned a surprised tone. It can't be that Feng Wu is reluctant to come, can it? She then added, after all, she was so rough with His Royal Highness. Will she assume airs now, knowing that she's the only one that can save His Royal Highness? The Empress Dowager grew angrier. She really didn't like that Feng Wu. She was about to explode like a volcano when an excited voice rang out outside. They're here. Lady Northern Feng's back. Miss Feng is here. The Empress Dowager looked up to see Lady Northern Feng rush into the room with Feng Wu behind her. Drained of all color, Lady Northern Feng was covered in sweat. She was too out of breath to say a word, and only pushed Feng Wu in Jun Linyuan's direction. Feng Wu was going in that direction when she saw the furious look the Empress Dowager gave her. Her stomach lurched. The Empress Dowager didn't seem pleased with her. Was it because she didn't greet her? This old lady was quite an influential figure in the empire, and Feng Wu felt it was unwise to cross her. Hence, she bowed at the Empress Dowager. Your Majesty. The Empress Dowager glared at Feng Wu. You can cure the Crown Prince. Feng Wu didn't give a straightforward answer. She only casually said, Your Majesty, all treatment comes with risks, and no medicine refiner can claim that they can cure a patient 100%. Still staring at Feng Wu, the Empress Dowager leaned over and whispered something in her ear. The look on Feng Wu's face changed slightly. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.